Welcome back to Draftstack. My name is Nick Thomas. I'm joined today by Kyle, Jordan, and Mike. How you guys doing?
Good.
I'm doing well, man.
Doing good.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
For sure. All right. Well, today we have a live mock draft. We're going to be going back and forth. I'm really excited. Plenty of content, and we'll be answering any questions you guys have in the comments below at the end of the show. So make sure to stick around for that. Drop any questions below. But I think we'll just get straight into it. I have the first overall selection. This one was really hard. I spent a lot of time really thinking about this one. I wasn't sure what direction to go in, but in the end, I ended up going with Cooper Flag. I'm not sure how much I love the fit, but at the end of the day, it is Cooper Flag. Man, Nico is one lucky son of a bitch, man.
Yeah.
But it's man. But we won't get into any of the conspiracies or anything like that. But how do you guys feel about his fit alongside Anthony Davis and Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively? And later in the season, Kyrie Irving and PJ Washington too. There's a lot going on there at the forward spots.
Yeah, I think that there's actually the closing lineup is going to have to be 80 at the 5, so that you can have PJ and Cooper as the forwards. But I think the starting lineup is probably going to end up being Lively, and PJ will be the sixth man, is where I kind of see that landing out. I think that one of PJ and Gafford is going to be traded for a guard. So, as the resident Mavs fan on the chat, that's where I think this is headed most likely. But I also think that Cooper, this is something I've been mulling over. If you look at Jason Kidd and you look at his history of coaching, he has always had extremely tall playmakers, whether going back to even in Brooklyn, it was AK-47, it was Joe Johnson, it was even he ran Paul Pierce at the one some. So I think Cooper is going to play a lot of point guard for the Mavs until Kyrie gets back.
Well, how much you guys buy into that playmaking upside, right? Obviously, there was some questions coming in about his ability to be a number one option offensively, be the main guy handling the ball. And for the most part, he proved a lot of that wrong. He proved me wrong, right? I wasn't a big believer in the offensive upside. But how do you guys feel about it? Do you guys think he can lead a playoff team with the ball in his hands the majority of the time?
Not his rookie year.
I think it's a possibility because you have to remember, even after a lot of injuries and whatnot, they were still a playing team, which is one of the reasons why I was surprised Dallas even got the number one pick. Mm-hmm. I think they could be a playing team. I'm just not really. I just think it's like a weird fit overall. But I mean, it's the best player, and you have the number one pick. You're looking for your franchise cornerstone, probably post AD. So, I mean, obviously they're going to pick Cooper Flag. There's no question about it. But
I think it'll be good for his long-term development to play one.
But I don't. More long-term development, but I don't know. Everyone needs to remember they're playing in the West, and West is extremely stacked. So playoff playing team is going to be extremely tough, but I don't know. Maybe they could pull it off.
I feel like if you can get this team to play in, it's a pretty successful season, right? I mean, at the end of the year, hopefully you'll have Kyrie back, and I think you're pretty confident going into the playoffs.
Kyrie ain't coming back. I'm not gonna lie.
Absolutely.
So if you can just manage to hang on to that, somewhere between the 10 seed and the 7 seed, preferably a 7 or 8 seed to get that, instant one-win access to the playoffs. But yeah, I think that'd be a super successful season, and I think they'd be happy with that. And I think they would be a legitimate contender next year, right? I remember, Jordan, you said before the lottery, right, in our live show, the only way Dallas contends next year is if they land Cooper. And we all laughed. We all laughed at you, right?
Yep.
They landed Cooper. And I think they're a legitimate contender if they can hang on to that 10 seed.
Yeah, and I think that Cooper playing one in the beginning will be good for his long-term development. But by the time Kyrie gets back, he won't have to play one anymore. So by the time of the playoffs, we're not having to force him into that role that he doesn't want. But I do think, like, for instance, Giannis is not the player he is today if Jason Kidd didn't make him the point guard beginning of his career. And so Giannis doesn't play point guard anymore, but he doesn't have the decision making that he has now without that run at the beginning of his career. So I do think that is one real advantage that Kidd has as a coach that a lot of people don't talk about.
All right. Well, I thought his first pick was pretty clear, pretty obvious. There's not a whole lot we can really talk about. I feel like, the Cooper Flag to Dallas discourse has kind of run its course already. We already have a
Yeah.
point standing, so let's just move on to the second pick. Mike is up next with the San Antonio Spurs. Mike, who you taking?
And one last thing, I forgot to mention it at the beginning. Sorry, I don't have my camera on right now. I'm so sorry about that. I'm in the background. If anyone's wondering. So I'll say with the number 2 pick, obviously with Spurs going to pick Dylan Harper. I mean, I don't think they trade the pick. I don't anything about any trade rumors surrounding that. I don't think is really going to come true. Think Dylan Harper is just the second best player available. I think once you get into like that tier 3 or tier 2.5, then you can start switching up like players and whatnot. But I think just hands down the second best player available is Dylan Harper. And just you putting him in that young core in San Antonio alongside obviously Victor Wembanyama. They have Stephon Castle, just won Rookie of the Year. And they still have Jeremy Sohan and whatnot. It's just like there's a lot of positive things. And then you just put him in a backcourt alongside Stephon Castle or De'Aaron Fox. I really love that. I really love that for Dylan. And obviously he's going to be playing with better teammates. And that's what people were saying about like when he was at Rutgers. Imagine him with NBA floor spacing. Well, he's going to get that at San Antonio. So he'll be able to thrive a lot better. Just being able to get better looks to the rim instead of like getting double teamed to where he can have his, or just really just able to score and really be able to like play from anywhere. And also I like his potential as a two-way player, to be honest with you. Not exactly one of his, I guess what people are reporting on, like him being the strongest two-way player, but I like what I saw defensively from him in college at Rutgers. But I don't know.
How do you think he fits that lineup? Does he start?
What did you say?
Does he start? And how does he
initially more than likely not be more of a 6-man, but I think he can break into that starting lineup very, very.
He's starting by the end of the year. By the end of the year,
more than closing lineup.
Possibly. I mean, I think it's a possibility.
I think your starting lineup and closing lineup would be the same, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it really depends on if they decide to make any moves, right? Like if there's movement player wise, there's a possibility he starts much sooner than later. I don't know what kind of moves they would be looking to make, but they seem to be wanting to field talent, especially with his height, and his ability to move the ball, his ability to score. So I guess that really just depends on what that looks like for him as far as what personnel will be available to the Spurs, like who's on the team start of the season. And then if you're talking about trade deadline, if they need to make any moves, what type of acceleration of his development makes that move for him starting a little bit more clear. So I guess we'll see.
I'm not sure how much I love that lineup, man. I'm not going to lie, right? I mean, you have 2 guys at the guards, 3 guys playing guard, right? In Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle. All 3 of them are primarily get to the rim players. You have Jeremy Sohan most likely at the 4, not a
also
shooter,
get to
right?
yeah.
So you have Wemby. Wemby's a fantastic shooter, right? High volume, knocks him down pretty well. But my question is San Antonio just going to be another case of Rutgers where you don't have a whole lot of real spacing? There's no real shooters on that team. There's no primary ball handler shooters. De'Aaron Fox is a good shooter. He's not a great shooter, and he makes his money getting to the rim. That's what he does primarily, right? He can knock them down. He just doesn't take them high volume. His game is to get to the rim. Stephon Castle, I'm not sure how much I believe in some crazy year 2 progression in his jump shot, right? Dylan Harper does not have a pull-up game as of right now. And for Sohan, not a shooter. So rather than playing potentially 5 out, which would be it's something I'd be looking to do considering you have probably one of the best shooting bigs of all time, right? You're now limiting yourself to one real shooter.
And it being the big.
He's probably going to try and get inside as well. At the end of the day, you're limiting Wemby here as well. So
I guess to reply to what you're saying is, like I said, it's just more of the best player available. It's more of the best player available thing. It's not even just about because you're not going to pick for if Dylan Harper is available at number 2. You're not going to pick for fit, and we've just seen so many teams quote unquote pick for fit, and it just turns out like worst case scenario. So like you literally just take the best player available. Like
I agree. If I'm a Spurs, I'll take him as well, right? All I'm saying is I'm kind of intrigued to see how this plays out because this is probably.
I think a Fox trade is more likely than a Harper trade at this point. And I know they just extended Fox, but
They didn't get the whole get him, so I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah,
I don't think
like they didn't.
I think
they
you're
didn't
right,
give the
but
world.
I still think either trade is unlikely. There's no way they don't run that Fox Wemby thing in the playoffs and then see how that goes. To be honest,
Yeah, I think they at least go to the trade deadline before they make a decision. But
Right,
definitely.
Yeah.
But do you think it's likely they take the Stephon Castle waters?
If he doesn't work out, like because Harper's just better than Castle. Like I know that Spurs fans love how Castle turned out, but if you have to choose between Harper and Castle, you choose Harper 100 times out of 100. Like so.
I can see how Harper. Well, I know we're saying that now, and Harper definitely has the higher ceiling. But everyone needs to know that we need to see how these players and Cooper Flag being included. I know Cooper Flag is a lot safer, but Cooper, Dylan, VJ, whoever you're thinking, they all need to like pan out in the league well before we start making assumptions and before we start saying who's better than who. Because at the end of the day, they haven't played a full on NBA game or not an NBA season and whatnot. Then we need to see how they do in the league and fit in their respective team before we start saying, oh, well, he's stronger than Stephon Castle just won Rookie of the Year and was well deserved. So I think we're gonna really see like how much I guess fit wise, like which player is more expendable. But like I said, we're just talking about like potential hypotheticals. At this rate, I don't see them trading either one.
They go at least to the trade deadline. You try to make it work.
At the very minimum, but even then, I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that it's that bad of a fit that they let one of them go. If anything, they'll let like Keldon Johnson or Vassell or one of the other players on the bench go before them. So,
but then again, you're losing more shooting then. And I'm not saying that's the wrong move, but I mean it's just.
I think Sohan.
They would trade those. They would trade those players and likely some of the picks that they have to get more reliable shooters from other teams. Like I know Cameron Johnson is one. Cameron Johnson on the Nets is one player that I like that actually on the on like trade talks, and the Nets are they're just trading for any pick at this point. So I think that's more of what they're doing than anything. I think Cameron Johnson is probably going to be traded more than likely next season, but can probably move on now. We've been on this one before,
Maybe
Vassell value this season. But let's move on now to the third selection. Kyle, you're up with the 76ers. Who are you taking?
It's Ace Bailey. I don't think you pass on him for several reasons. You can't teach the shot creation. Obviously, he could be a little more disciplined with what he shoots, but he seems to make tough shots. And you can't teach that, if you either have it or you don't. Also, I think it's a long-term pick next to Maxey, next to McCain. I don't know how long Paul George is going to play for. Injury history, things of that nature is factored into that. My comp for him is like Jabari Smith Jr. I do, it's to be seen what Jabari looks like overall going forward. But to me, I would say that it's a long-term fit. He gets to play with basically his favorite player and kind of learn, glean from him and figure out what that looks like to take. I think the next step for Ace, and it's to be seen what he looks like in NBA comp. But it's the patience to get his shot and getting to his spot, but the patience if it doesn't work or being able to counter defenses, it's much faster than the college game. So I would think you can't pass on him. Obviously, they don't need any more guards, so I can't imagine that they're going to pass on Ace Bailey for. And I could be wrong. Obviously, this is mock, so. They might like somebody else that was slotted further down and decide to pick them. But to me, I think the 76ers go Ace. Also, they are apparently shopping the pick. Not sure how much merit is placed in that. And I was we were talking earlier. I'm not even sure. Is Ace the type of player at 3 where you're like, hey, it doesn't matter where we pick him. Wherever that pick gets traded to, are they like, he's so talented scoring wise? Do you just pick him and figure out the rest later? So that's kind of where I feel like the 70s. Now, I think they keep the pick personally. I don't think they're going to trade it, but they haven't been afraid to make big deals before. So, it really just depends on what they decide to do heading towards draft day. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think is realistic, as you said, because any deal they make with this pick is to get a superstar, and the only tradable contract they have to get on a superstar is Paul George, and no one wants that deal. My question is,
Absolutely.
does he start over Paul George on opening night?
No,
Not on opening night.
It's an understudy thing. I think that's going to be quite a bit of what happens for a few of these players, depending on fit, what team needs what, and if they need something immediately from that particular player. Ace is a wing, so they have Paul George, who they've paid a lot of money to be available. I can't imagine that they're going to start Ace over him. I do think eventually you might see them on the floor together, possibly, just because of Paul George's experience. He's a long-term veteran, so you get to it's a learn on hand kind of thing, learning with experience. Hands-on, more direct. Versus watching Paul George from the bench, it's more, hey, let's see what this looks like. They can do some interesting things with lineups as it pertains to those two. So I don't think he'll start. Hoping for no injuries, obviously. But I do think it would be interesting to see what he looks like on the floor with them. And I think spacing wise, with Maxey, with McCain, both guys who can hit threes, make shots, they can get to the basket. Finding Ace on cuts, I think, will be interesting also. I think Maxey and McCain are really good, high IQ players as far as making reads. Sucks that McCain got injured. I didn't really get to see a full, scale of what his talents look like on a longer span. But I think that the 76ers to me are his best fit. Not that he can't fit elsewhere, because scoring is scoring, but I think 76ers are probably his best fit. So,
Jordan, do you think he's going to be a shot creator or a shot maker?
So I have viewed Ace as a maker more than a creator on this next level. That being said, is there anyone in the league you would rather Ace Bailey be mentored by than Paul George?
They're very close too. It's worth noting. They're very close. He's got a podcast multiple times.
KD.
It's been a mentorship relationship already.
Yeah, KD's the only other person. I mean, and actually, I would almost rather PG, because I want Ace to lean into the defensive side, because I think his tools for defense are very underrated, and I think if he's going to hit the superstar potential, it's because he unlocks the defense on top of the offense. And so, to me, I just feel like if I'm Philly, we're stuck with the PG contract anyway. Might as well get some use out of it for the future. So.
For sure. All right. Well,
I like this trade.
We'll move on now to the fourth pick. Jordan, you're up. Who are you taking?
Okay, so I can look down my board and go for other kinds of fits in Charlotte, but I think it's just pretty clear that the best player available is also the best fit for Charlotte. And VJ Edgecombe he fits absolutely perfectly between Charlotte's two stars already, while also having star potential himself. So just to me, and also you have injury concerns with LaMelo, and so you need a backup point guard for that team. And VJ, I think, can do some of that backup point guard as well. So just to me, I don't see a better fit than VJ.
Do you think he has point guard upside, like full-time point guard upside? Let's say LaMelo eventually doesn't work out in Charlotte. Can they move towards a VJ Edgecombe-led offense?
I don't think it's completely out of possibility, but I don't think you draft him for the idea that he's a point guard either. No. And so I don't think it's actually completely out of the realm of possibility. I have my needs for Charlotte that I have written down are wings, defense, and playmaking. And I just think that VJ hits all three of those needs. And so while also still being the best player available. So it's really hard to draft somebody else.
I agree with almost like all what you said. I guess what I mean, I don't really see VJ. I think VJ is just more of a just your need. I'll say like some flashes of playmaking, but I haven't seen anything consistently to where I want him as my backup or anything remotely close to a backup point guard. I think like what he's good for what he is, and that's where the whole Victor Oladipo thing. I know Oladipo was, you know, it has playmaking and whatnot, but was mainly the scoring and also the versatility on both ends. That's where I think VJ would provide the most. That's where he would provide the most value. In terms of like a second string point guard, probably something that they could address. If I'm not mistaken, Trey Mann is still in the Hornets, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
true.
Yeah, so it'd probably be it'll probably be him and maybe someone else that I guess they'll probably see more value of seeing as that second string point guard, especially we saw what Trey Mann was capable of during the regular season. I think VJ, I mean, definitely does have that star potential, and I mean, just fit and team wise is probably the best case for him. Up in Charlotte, and I don't think there's much else to say about it.
This is where I think the draft starts with pick 5.
Yeah.
I think that the first 4 picks are pretty locked in my opinion.
I agree.
All right, moving on to the 5th pick, we have the Utah Jazz. This is my selection. And with the 5th overall selection, I have the Utah Jazz taking Trey Johnson, right? In my view, they need a bucket getter. They are bottom 10 in 3-point percentage and in points per game this past season. They need someone at that like shooting guard, small forward position. Trey Johnson's that, right? Great movement shooter, has some real shot creation upside. And he's just a bucket getter, right? He can help you in both those 2 departments. And he probably is the best talent available here, depending on who you ask, especially for the Jazz, right? He's a great fit, and I like him. I really like him there. Kyle, what do you think,
man? I think it addresses a need. They need a shot maker. They need somebody who can get their own shot. Also, it just is. I don't know what exactly they're doing construction wise. So to me
neither.
They don't know.
It fits because to me, what I've watched, when we were watching, I was watching the combine and watching him go through drills, and obviously, you know, that somebody in front of you and defending you is different than getting shots off, but there's an ease to his offense. It just it doesn't seem like there's any hesitation. There seems like to be just a smoothness. It's to be seen how far that can go. I think it works. You don't get guys who can score all the time, or at least efficiently. I think he does it really efficiently, and that's something Utah needs. Also, I think if I had to think next to some of the guys that they have, I think he fits exactly what you want out of. You could probably play maybe the 3 in a small ball lineup. Likely going to end up at the 2. So I think it really works well for them. You don't pass on guys who can score the ball. It's much easier to tell a guy, hey, look, you're 6'6", you have a decent sized wingspan. Let's move up your lateral quickness. And it is to tell you, hey, go get me a 3, go get me a 2, go get to the basket. Like that stuff is so, you know, if you have the skill to do it, you pick the guy that can do that. So I think that's a really good pick there for them.
To me, with Trey, all of the red flags and like all of the negatives that people talk about, almost all of them come back to people want him to be a point guard, and he's just not a point guard. Like if you view him as a 2 guard, there's not these red flags. And so like, because he's not a black hole, but he's just not. He doesn't have the vision to create like a point guard. But he's not Cam Thomas just refusing to pass under any circumstances. You know, he's an actual 2 guard who can do some playmaking, but he's just he doesn't have the vision of a point guard. So to me, there's no problem with taking Trey this high. I think this is the right pick.
All right. Well, I think up next we have Mike with the Wizards. Mike, who's your pick?
Okay, so I'm a little conflicted on this because, like we just said, this is where the draft starts. Because I'm not sure if they want a more experienced player in college, or they just want to pick the best player available at that point. And I'm probably a little conflicted with this pick. But if I had to pick somebody, I'll probably say, oh, that's tough.
This is the hardest pick so far.
Yeah, I'll probably say the hardest pick so far. Because there's just so many avenues. There's just so many avenues you could take at this point. I'll probably say I'll probably say, well, it's not best player available. It's more fit. Probably say they take. I'll say that's. You know what? Yeah, we'll just go with it. And it may be a little unpopular with some folks, but I think they'll probably take Con Kneppel here. So for me, it's just. I think what Khan does on and off the ball, especially with the playmaking juices, as you really got to really watch him. You have to really watch him to see the playmaking that he really offers, especially off the pick and roll, especially when he was combining with Kavan Malawak, especially when Cooper Flag was out. I think that really showcased a lot of his potential. He's a solid rebounder, can score, whether it's like off the catch or he can actually get to the rim a little bit.
He's going to have that game with Sarr.
Yeah. So I think that's something he could, do with Sarr or like another potential like rim runner in Washington. I think that's one of the, just upside wise, and adding him to that young core alongside, Bilal Coulibaly. We just said Alex Sarr, Jordan Poole, and Bub Carrington and Kashawn George. I think that's also something that, you could, add alongside in Washington. And, just kind of see where it goes from there, because obviously they kind of lucked out, or they didn't luck out. They were extremely unlucky to not get a top 3 pick.
Yeah.
And, at this point, you just want to see what your young core does next season. It's an extremely exciting young core, and you just want to add, a sniper, pretty much another sniper, arguably one of the best shooters. No, not arguably, definitely hands down one of the best shooters in this draft. Alongside that, like consistent 3-point shooting. And I think that's something definitely that'll make this Washington young core that much more interesting. Really want to see how he combines with the likes of Bub next year, especially playmaking wise, and also Alex Sarr as well. So I think this is definitely.
Did you? I think in a team with Jordan Poole and Bub Carrington, you see with this team quite a lot. It's a lot of ISO ball. Pound the rock, I'm going to get mine. Having someone that's going to be moving off the ball, creating offense, discombobulating the defense, just doing all the right things is going to be massive for this team. And it's not just going to provide help for him directly, and not going to be just him helping the Wizards. But his ability to create off the ball will free things up for guys like Bob Carrington and Jordan Poole and further their development, right?
Yep.
Now, I'm a little bit intrigued you went with Con. There's nothing wrong with Con, right? I feel like Con's the safest pick in the draft. You know what you're going to get with Con.
Exactly.
But if I was the Wizards here, I would have gone with Kamal Malawak, right? I'm really intrigued by an Alex Sarr, Kamal Malawak front court, man.
I would have actually gone with Queen, but the same idea. Like, I think if I was the Wizards, I'd swing for the fences. And so Queen, Malawak, Fears even, but I also see the appeal of going safe here because Con is going to make your team better. And you do have a lot of swing guys already on the Wizards.
Exactly.
So I can see the appeal either way. So
I think either or is fine. I was actually thinking of Colin Murray, but I think I was actually thinking of Colin Murray a little bit, but I think Colin Murray, I don't know who. Well, I know who's picking number 9 with the Raptors, but I probably think that's probably a better fit, to be honest with you. But for me, it's either Con. Queen was probably second for me. But I think Con is just if I had to pick outside the top 2, like who I'm the most confident in, succeeding, almost off the bat in the NBA. Probably put some money on Con. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I think what he does just translates extremely well to the NBA level to almost no other. So I mean, I guess that's just my take. So
another thing Con does, man, this past season, Alex Sarr really struggled on rolls to the rim, and Con is a fantastic pick and roll playmaker, and he helps you get out in transition. He's probably one of the best transition playmakers in the class, right? Yeah, that really helps your young guys. That helps Kashawn George. That helps Alex Sarr significantly, and it really aids in their development. And I'm really excited to see if he lands there, how that fit works, right? And I think, as you guys said, Con is the safest pick in the draft, right?
He's also a huge floor raiser for a team.
Exactly. You're not getting a superstar, right? Let's be real. There is no world where Con is an all-star, in my opinion, right? There is a world where he gets
on that
Austin Reeves level, though, where he is just one of the most elite role players in the league, one of those elite third options, one of those elite backup guys in the league, secondary options for offense, right? I think he's
My
really
comp for him
underrated
is JJ
defender as
Redick
well.
for a reason.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And
that
I feel
he
like
is going to help.
with a team that kind of has a lot of mavericks on the defensive side of the ball,
Yeah.
having someone like Concanepo, who's a really underrated defender off the ball, right? In terms of team defense and not point of attack defense, he's actually a really underrated defender, and he can really help out there. Just,
Yep.
I feel like Connor's just the perfect guy to come in and just bring structure to your team, right? You listen to this guy talk, he sounds like he's 40, right? He does all the right things, he says all the right things. I think he's like a dream pick here, right? I think he's a dream pick for anybody. But I think with a system like this, with the Wizards, with a roster like the Wizards have, Con is definitely a major floor riser for 2-3 years down the line when you're trying to make that playoff push.
And his movement
Right.
without the ball is probably the biggest
Oh
thing.
man,
right?
yeah.
Like, they're gonna run so many things for him. They have the guys who can set the screens. I hope I don't see too much DHO. I would prefer to see them be a little more creative. But once he gets that shot going, like it's a fluid thing. I think he can score a lot of points for them.
It's crazy how good Con is that we waited till now to talk about his best trade. like that is a huge point in his favor.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, well, moving on now, we have Kyle with the New Orleans Pelicans. Kyle, who's your pick?
Come on, Malawak, actually. And I pick him there for several reasons. I didn't watch a whole lot of Pelican games, but I do like their team. I think they have a lot of guys who are intelligent defenders. They can score also. So to me, adding Malawak next to Misi gives them a formidable front line. It just, to me, makes a lot of sense. They can go now. Obviously, with Zion, obviously, I don't think Malawak will start. But if they want to run lineups that they go kind of ultra defense up front and have some offense, 3-1, you can really make it can be really versatile defensively. Misi's pretty athletic. I think he makes good reads on blocking shots. Also, it makes their rebounding, which I think they struggled with last year or last season, a bit better. So to me, I'm sure you guys have heard, the double big lineup is coming back. I think this moves in that direction, sets them up for now and the future. I don't know what kind of moves they'll make. They're going through some overhaul, I guess, from the personnel front office perspective. But to me, this would be an interesting move to make them formidable defensively, and give them options from the big man perspective. And Malawak to me has so much upside. Watching him during the Olympics, just you could see how much ability he can get to, and with the focused development of being an NBA player, I think the upside is so high. So his versatility, his ability to move his feet laterally at his size is scary, actually.
It's crazy, man.
So I think the Pelicans select him here. Again, I could be wrong. They may go a wing here, but I think if I was picking at 7, I would pick Malawak. So I think it just makes a lot of sense.
I want to say this might be the first pick. I don't. This might be the first one. I'm a little iffy, not a little, very, very iffy on Kyle. So for me, I think they go with Jeremiah Fears. That's just that's just a pick for me, for them at this point. Now, obviously, they're probably looking for someone with, I guess, more surefire star power. And not saying Kaman doesn't have that. Obviously, Kaman has a lot of the tools to do that, but I still think I need to see more from him, especially in a post, because what we've mostly seen from him is, okay, like he's rolling to the basket off a pick and roll, and he's more of like a lob threat and everything. But I haven't seen enough from him in the post to where enough juice in the post really, or much of a face-up game to where I'm more confident of him being a reliable scorer, even just there alone, let alone the 3-point shooting, which it's flashes, but it's it's just too many flashes to where it's okay, well, it's more of a work in progress type guy to reach that star upside potential that he has, which he could reach, but I think there might be a better team, for him for Commander. Obviously, and just some questionable things. I think probably the most questionable thing with Malawak is probably his motor, because that was a really big question mark. Because one game he'll look really good. He'll because one thing about him defensively, he'll move his hips really quick. Once he's able to recover extremely well defensively, and like you said, the lateral movement and his size and his length, he's just able to deter, let alone block a lot of shots. But I think the motor sometimes really goes up and down, like 0 rebounds. I know you're, facing up like against Jojo Tugler is one of the best defensive players in college basketball, period. But 0 rebounds isn't, in a big time game like that, isn't exactly the biggest. For me, that's a red flag. I think they just go with someone that is just a bit more, I guess, more of like surefire, or just more likely to, I guess, prove that upside thing at this rate, which would be Jeremiah Fears for me. The scoring.
And I kind of go at it from a different direction.
And I'd probably go with Jeremiah. Yeah, I'll probably go with Jeremiah Fears, to be honest with you.
I go from a different direction. I don't like this pick as much because I actually feel like Misi answered a lot of questions this year, even though the Pelicans were not. Even though the Pelicans weren't good, I really was impressed with Misi's development. I thought he did a significantly better job than I was expecting him to do in that situation. So I'm not sure I love drafting over him after he did such a good job his rookie year. That being said, being a Dallas fan, there are huge advantages to being able to play the same way with the same kind of big at all times. So I don't hate it either, but I think I kind of would go Fears just because I've got a starting caliber, in my opinion, starting caliber center coming up.
I kind of disagree there, man. I actually love the pick because I'm not ready to see another season of a center core of Kelly Olynyk and Yves Missy. Right? And I know you just said that Yves is great, and Yves has been great, but he's not a starting caliber center, at least not at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not yet.
And maybe I'm being naive here, right? Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like Carmen kind of maybe unlocks a little bit of the defense we saw from Zion Williamson at Duke, right?
Yeah, I mean, could be.
And he's also the perfect. They've needed a rim protector for years, right? They've tried time and again to pick one up. It hasn't worked out for them. Now they get a chance to get one organically through the draft on a rookie scale contract, right? Bring him in for 4 years. You now have your entire center core, and I'm very comfortable with Yves Missy being my backup center, right? I believe in enough to be that. And so now you're paying 2 rookie scale contracts to be a very good center core. And then you can continue to build around the edges with that. I love that pick, personally. I'm very high on Malawak. He's 4th on my board. And I think he's the perfect selection for the Pelicans, man. I really like that pick.
I just like the defensive versatility. And I think that's mainly
really,
the address of what you want. And thinking about what that looks like with Murphy, with Jones, with Zion, with DeJounte when he gets back. So I just think defensively, and I think the way that they've been trending, you get a team.
And in the West, you need to go too big, and he lets you go too big with Zion.
Right. And you have such a, to me, when they need to get stops, especially when they're playing teams that have guys who put on high levels of rim pressure, it deters that much more and forces teams to take jump shots. So you can really game plan, defensively and say, hey, I've got 2 guys who are going to stop the ball at the rim. They're going to rebound. To me, it's a good problem to have 2 guys who are going to fight for rebounds. Obviously, the 0 rebounds in a big game is a problem, but I think that's the point of development, right? So, hey, we saw this during the tourney. We need this in the league. How can we help you get to that point? And maybe positioning, maybe him getting stronger core wise, whatever that is. I think you can't pass him at 7. Anything, and I think any team after 7 is going to has the opportunity to pick him, and he works. So to me, if the Pelicans, who I think just needed help on defense, it's both fit and want, in my opinion. The offensive upside, I think, is one of those things where you just figure it out as time progresses. I think he shows flashes. Maybe you open those flashes into open windows a little bit differently. But I think that's, to me, it's a really good pick just because of what he brings defensively alone at this point.
And I also think that we might need to be a little focused on Duke bigs. I don't think that Duke bigs show everything at Duke now under Shire. Because if you look at Lively, for instance, Lively never had a double-double at Duke, which is kind of wild to think about. And you look at how Lively has turned out in Dallas. It's just complete. Like, I think he had 2 double-digit rebounding games at Duke, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a while since I looked at those stats, but and then he averaged 9.5 as a rookie and 9.5 again this year. So or 9 this year. So he is an incredible rebounder now, but he didn't rebound at Duke. So maybe there's something with the scheme there at Duke that is holding bigs back.
All right, well, moving on now to the 8th overall selection. Jordan, you're up with the Brooklyn Nets. Who are you taking?
Okay, so I have, for every team, I have needs written down that I'm drafting for. And my needs here for Brooklyn is just talent. So I'm looking at 2 guys. And I think I'm going to go, to me, I'm looking at Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears. Those are the 2 that I'm looking at. To me, I have Queen a tier higher than Fears. So I'm just going to go ahead and do Queen. I also love the fit with Queen and Claxton. I think that's an incredible fit. I think you're going to be able to unlock some really fun moves with Queen as a ball handler. And then, I think that the Nets are going to keep Cam. So you're going to have somebody, well, at least for this next couple of years, I think they're going to keep Cam Thomas. I'm not talking about Cam Johnson. Yeah, true. Sorry, Cam Thomas. I think they're going to keep. And so if you have Cam Thomas, your other guys are going to have to be better passers, because your guard is just not going to pass. So I think Queen is an excellent fit next to Cam Thomas there too. So I think he's the most talented and very interesting fit too. So that's who I'm going with this Queen.
I agree with that. His post game is something that I think is only going to get better, and I think it's pretty good at this point too. I do think the only area of improvement that I would have to point out is maybe like strength, right? Just getting stronger. That's going to improve the footwork, improve the ability to score around the basket. He can stretch the floor, which is going to help being placed next to Claxton. So to me, I think that's a really good fit. You mentioned talent. That Derek Queen is very talented. I'm intrigued to see what his overall game looks like when he puts it all together. And when the game starts to slow down for him. Obviously, there might be some wrinkles here and there. But I think he has quite a bit of upside. And I actually had him, if I had to pick a comp, it would probably be Zach Randolph. Zach Randolph.
Mine is LaMarcus Aldridge. So I think LaMarcus Aldridge is mine. So yeah,
prolific.
He's that old, that old school power forward.
I have a small size Sengun or mini Sengun for my team. I think just the face up game he has, one of the best face up games in this draft alone. Like the footwork, just the footwork, he's able to handle the ball. Like he has a pretty tight handle on his finishes. I like that a lot. I've seen some mid-range stuff from him. I think he was able to showcase some of his 3-point potential in the March Madness, because prior to that, for me, just center-wise, I think there wasn't a lot of bigs that really were doing it for me. I guess like in the regular season with Derek Queen being included, it's not a lot of attempts, just really low volume, and even just some of the I guess it just didn't really look natural. I thought even Sorber was the best out of the couple, but I think Queen really showcased some potential 3-point scoring in March Madness.
I am worried with bust potential.
Yeah, he does have some bust potential, sadly. But
my point for Derek Queen is Johnny Davis, because he's going to be out of the league in about 18 months.
Ooh.
Man,
see, I think he's
I don't think so.
I feel like he's a very big. I'm going to use the Hollinger acronym. He's a FIPID candidate. Fat is potential in disguise.
I think
he's got some.
I think Queen showcased a lot, and I think he just has. I just think he has too many intangibles to be a Johnny Davis because I've been. I mean, obviously, some people know, some people don't. But I've been paying attention to Draftstack spaces for quite a bit. So I was like, if anyone remembers those Taco Bell commercials that Johnny Davis was on, it's like when NIL first came about, like, oh, who's this guy? It was like, okay, well, Johnny, and he was a good player for, I guess, what he was, but like Derek Queen is just so much more talented and just so much more of a polished of a player that he's just whatever the floor is or whatever he ends up being, he won't be out of the league. At the very minimum, he'll be part of someone's bench or like a solid player off the bench, and he'll probably improve from there. I just think there's so much talent in his game. You know, probably I say the biggest issue about him is maybe he plays too upright and he gets beaten defensively too easily to where you have a lot of question marks about him being.
But that's why you pair him with Claxton.
Yeah, exactly.
So that solves that problem.
A solid contributor defensively, or consistent contributor defensively, but saying he would be out of the league.
Okay, but can I ask? Yeah, can you pair with Claxton?
Probably not.
Can you? Because unless you really believe in the shooting, I'm not going out there and putting two bigs on the floor who can't shoot.
Well, Brooklyn's not winning games anyway next year. So, like, I mean, you got
they'll win some. They'll win some. They'll win some. They'll win some. They're bound. If you have Cam Thomas, if you have at least a somewhat solid team around Cam Thomas and Cameron Johnson, as long as they're both healthy, you're gonna win some games.
But I mean, you're not. Your focus is not on winning games next year. Your focus is on developing talent. And I think you take Queen and you develop him. Like Queen has one of the highest upside, definitely the highest upside to me left out of everybody. And so Brooklyn has like, I think it's approximately 14 first round picks this year. Like, so you can swing on some of them and you can take more solid stuff. It's 3 first rounders, I think, but you know, it just feels like half the first round. 4, yeah. So you can swing on one of them.
Why would you swing on this? No, you see, I disagree on that completely because you can swing. You have later picks, right? Derek Queen is such, and you talk about not caring about winning games, right? You don't really care about the fit. You just want talent. You want to develop it. To develop talent, it has to fit, right? If he is just being attacked, right? If there is no spacing and he is just being, his offensive game is so limited in a system without spacing. I don't see him developing the way he can, right?
But see, I think there's a lot of spacing in that lineup. If Cam Thomas,
not with
that's one thing
and also
really, because Claxton, I think, offers vertical spacing.
Exactly.
Time out of the post, right? He's not moving out of there. He's literally in the post at all times, right? At the high post. You already have Nick Claxton at the low post, right? There is some spacing, but you got Cam Thomas who's trying to get to the mid-range as well. He's a shooter, but the majority of his buckets come in the mid-range. You already have Derek Queen in that area, right? Cam Johnson is the only real legitimate shooter in that starting lineup to me.
I think there's more spacing than you're thinking.
I think I was just gonna say that there's definitely more spacing in that Brooklyn Nets team.
Plus, they got 3 more picks. They got 3 more first-round picks.
They also have a couple more picks. So. And there's no, especially with the players off the board, like Trey Johnson's off the board already, VJ's off the board, just the players that, if you want like more spacing and stuff, those.
Because Fears isn't offering spacing either.
What do you say?
Fears isn't offering spacing either.
Oh no,
and
not
yeah. So like you need, to me, you need talent.
For the Nets, I had Noah Singer in mind. I'm really high on him at the moment. He's flat on balls, right? The playmaking ability for him, he can be a very, very good secondary playmaker at the next level, right?
He would have been my talent at the next
line is just crazy for someone who's 19 years old. The ceiling is so high for him. I think he can be like a Jalen Johnson type player, right? Offensively, the defensive tools are there. I really like him, man. I really, really like him. I think he can fit in here nicely with Brooklyn. And I think the shooting is coming along pretty nicely as well.
It is, but there's still a lot of question marks about it because it still needs to be. I buy the shooting long term. I think I buy the shooting with Noah long term, but I probably still need to see it a bit more like consistently over the span of a season.
Yeah.
Especially in the NBA. Before I really buy it, for me personally, I think there are a couple other places that might be a better fit for Noah. Just so like he's able to really maximize his potential. But I guess for me, Derek Queen would be the perfect pick for him at this rate. So
all right, well, we have a question here from Mark Tavares. So does Brooklyn build around Queen even though they will have another top prospect next draft?
Can I grab that?
Why don't you take this?
So to me, a team building wise, I think one of the things is you aren't necessarily building around Queen per se, but you're building maybe players who have a skill set and the ability to have versatility. So you grab Queen this year. Next season's draft class is
nothing is a guarantee. By the way, I just want to point that out.
Trades can happen. All kinds of things can take place. But to me, you're not. So Brooklyn isn't so much saying, "Oh, Queen is our main future." This is who we're building around. But you're picking him from the perspective that he has the upside as a potentially prolific scorer, possibly. That's to be seen. I don't want to put any like weird expectations, but I think from the post game, the mid range, and being able to just get his own shot. We talked about the tight handle. I think what Brooklyn is trying to do is have guys who are versatile, and so I think that's what the pick is for. Is his versatility, his potential versatility, and the growth in those areas. It's really to be seen what it looks like on the pro floor, right? That again, to me, I mentioned earlier, I think he needs to get stronger. That the physicality in the league has intensified, it's gotten back. So to me, I think if he gets stronger in the next season and next draft, depending on what Brooklyn decides to do, they do have the draft capital. I would be intrigued to see who they pick or what direction they go, but it will be, to me, what along the lines of versatility, offensively or defensively.
You're talking about versatility, right? I'm wondering, is Noah Pender in play here? Right, to slot into that Cam Johnson type role after the deadline if he gets moved.
I think it's too early to pick Noah, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
It's too early.
I would also address.
You take whoever you like at this point in the draft. I don't think there's any kind of set order.
Yeah, but you also just don't want to be picking someone for the sake of picking someone. Like
I think Penda would be lower because they also have these other picks. Like I think at 19, you can get Penda.
I think you can get Penda at 19.
From the people I speak to in the front offices, he's not getting past 16.
Interesting. That's interesting.
I personally think you can get Penda. I don't think Penda. If I had to put and it's not any diss on Penda. I think Penda is very talented. But if I had to put money on Penda, I think Penda falls outside the top 20. There's definitely top 20 players that I think would be more attractive to teams in the top 20 than Noah Penda. Noah Penda is also and I liked what I saw from Matt Lamont this season. I think it's too many question marks to where I'm picking him in the top 20. That's just for me. But I think
let me address that last comment real quick before we move on to the next one. Because to me, if we're wanting to focus on both drafts and you're really worried about having a top pick in the next draft, if Stokes moves into the draft, your top 5 is Stokes, Peterson, DeBenza, Boozer, and Amente. And Nate Amente. You're not. You think he's out? Okay, so then you're really. He is officially out. Yeah. Okay, so there's not a top 5 pick to me that would be. Other than Boozer is the only top 5 pick that you're like, oh, I can't play Boozer and Queen together. So to me, I don't think I'm going to base all of my chickens in the Boozer basket. I think you go for it.
All
and
right.
you just do Queen.
Is on the question here. Is Carter Bryant in play?
He is in play. He is one of the people.
He's in play, yeah, for sure.
He's
the wingspan, the defensive upside. I think offensively, that's not necessarily what they were asking for him to do at Arizona. But here he may be able to showcase some of his ability to be a two-way guy. If there was a team to do it, would be Brooklyn. So Carter, like he impressed a lot of people during the combine.
He impressed me.
Seriously.
I thought he was done for it.
Said all the right things, man. But yeah, I think that again, I mentioned Noah Penn sliding into that Cam Johnson role after the deadline. I think it's something Carter Bryant can do for sure. He has a super high floor, very projectable role as a rookie. There are some self-creation concerns, but he shoots the ball really well, does a lot right on defense, moves off the ball, is a great cutter. He has all the little things right. I wouldn't say that Cam Johnson is a direct comp, but I could see him sliding into that role.
Yes.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to move on to the next one.
Yeah, man, we spent about 25 minutes on the Nets.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to, the Nets are a really interesting team there, but moving on to 9th, I will be selecting Jeremiah Fears to the Toronto Raptors. Right?
Perfect.
I think he's probably the best player left on the board, but beyond that, he's a perfect fit, right? Best fit left remaining. I know Masai usually loves his rangy wing with a bit of playmaking. We're going to have to go around that this draft, right? I did consider a SNA here, but Fears is my pick. I think they have a lot of creation issues in the half court, right? They really struggle with shot creation. Now, Emmanuel Quickly did miss most of last season, or all of last season, and so that obviously played a part into it. I'm not sure how that fit would work between the two of them, but I really do like it because I think Fears comes off the bench here and it's just a microwave scorer to start off with, and we can see how it progresses. I'm not sure what the future holds with Emmanuel Quickly in Toronto. That's a pretty big deal, so I'm not sure how movable it is. But I think they're probably going to be bringing him off the bench for a little while, test him out, and I think there's a very good chance he ends up taking Emmanuel Quickly's starting spot at some point over the next 24 months.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that.
Probably the best shot creator right now in the draft. I'd say, man. Some of the best offensive tape I've ever evaluated personally. Does everything you want, right? He moves off the ball. He can shoot off movement, shoot off screens, shoot off set plays. He can create, take people off the dribble on an island in isolation, get to the cup. He can get to the mid-range. He can shoot from three. He can shoot off the catch. Does everything right offensively. I'm a little bit higher on his playmaking than others, especially in transition. The defense is a bit of a concern, but overall, I think Jeremiah Fears is a pretty clear pick here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have any disagreement. I don't have anything else to say about it. I think that's the perfect pick.
There's a lot of different ways they could go, but I do like that. Like, if they wanted to go the big versatile wings, we're looking at CMB, we're looking at Carter Bryant, we're looking at Rasheer Fleming, Essengate. This is a good spot for Essengate and Pinda. But I also I think Fears is clearly the best player prospect left on the board. I mean, not the best player currently, but definitely the best prospect left on the board. So,
all right, well,
I have no problem.
We'll probably just move on here with the 10th selection. Mike, you're up with the Rockets. Who are you taking?
Sorry, you said. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that last part, Nick. What did you say?
You're up with the Rockets.
The Rockets. So I guess for the Rockets here, the pick. Well, personally, the pick I'm going to pick is just someone that, because when you think about the Rockets, you have to think of like what they need at this rate. And for me, I guess in my head, they like try to like trade this pick because like from what I know that they're trying to they're trying to be right now. They're trying to be like a playoff, like a real like threat in the playoffs, but they're really missing that like number one threat. But because they are where they are in this draft, you're just not going to get that at this point. You're going to get, like, if I was going to say, they just need another player that just fits in the rotation, I would say Nick Clifford. But obviously Nick Clifford, you mean they will just trade the pick at that point. So I guess for me, they would pick, I'll say probably who's the best player available at this rate, which is probably for me, it's Colin Murray Boyles. And then he could possibly fit in that. He could possibly fit in that team. But to be honest with you, I think they probably trade that pick and maybe try and do a trade with, if I'm not mistaken, like Phoenix, or just try and get that number one option that they're looking for, and like put some contracts and put some players in. And like I know Kevin Durant's literally the main one. It's Kevin Durant and Phoenix, and trying to see if him combined with Amen Thompson and Sengun, let's see what that does in the playoffs. And I think that's probably the avenue they explore. I highly doubt they keep this pick. I'm going to be honest with you guys. So I think they just take the best player available. I picked Colin Murray because I think Colin Murray is what you want at this point. But I could also just see them taking like whether it's like Noah or picking maybe even a Jakasionis or a Thomas Sorber or just whoever that other team they're trading with, like Phoenix more than likely would want at this rate. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, I guess.
Why don't you dive into that a little bit?
Sorry, what was the question?
Why Murray Boyles?
Like I said, I think Murray Boyles is like the best. I think it's the best player available at this rate. I don't think you want to like pass up on. What's the fit there? Yeah, dive into a little bit. Yeah, I don't think you pass up on what he could offer. The Draymond Green comparisons. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they are compared to each other. I think what Colin Murray offers, like defensively, the defensive versatility to guard 1 through 4, and even like a small ball 5, I think is just something that a lot of people in this draft can say that they have. Also, just looking at some of the numbers, you look at South Carolina. Some of them are indicative. Most of them are indicative of how great of a player he is, but some of them are like a little, like it could look a little off-putting. But take everything with a grain of salt, because that South Carolina team last season was abysmal.
Seriously,
to say the very least. So a lot of the offensive production was really just give Colin the ball and let him hoop. So,
from a prospect, like of what they seem to value in prospects, he does seem to fit that mold. He does do playmaking. He is defense first. So like he fits in with that mold of Amin, of Shingun also is a big who does playmaking. You have Tari Eason is a big who does playmaking. Like, so he does fit that mold of the type of prospect they like. So exactly. I will give you that.
Yeah, and like I said, even if I'm just thinking about it from what other teams would want, I know a lot of teams would want a player like Colin Murray on their team. Like, so if it's not KD that they trade for, it's another person that they feel like could be that number one option on their team. I just think that Colin Murray would have returned would return quite some value at this pick. So I think that's probably who they go with.
I agree with
All right, well, with the 11th overall selection, the Trailblazers, Kyle, this is your pick. Who are you taking?
I'm going Noah Sengue, actually.
Perfect.
I bet.
Wingspan, physical tools. They are building a team of just rangy wings or rangy players, guys who have big wingspans. Defensively, that's what they want. They want their team to be defensively formidable, also have the ability to put the ball on the floor, to be able to shoot. I think he's so versatile. I would have him going higher. There's still questions, obviously, especially because I think he's a tweener. And so to me, he fits. You have Kamara already on there. You add him to that. I just think you give the Trailblazers have an interesting team that they're building with size. They drafted for size last season and talent. And so I think what you get is you don't have the biggest guards, but everyone else is massive. Long wingspans, going to be formidable at the 5 to 3 spot. I just think it works well. And I think that they have an identity that they're trying to build out. We're a team that's going to make sure you work on offense. You're not going to get anything easy. And then we're also going to punish you on the other side because we have size. So I think that's the reason I picked Noah here. I think they're the ones.
I also think there's a world where Noah can play some too.
Correct. Right. So, I don't know what he does. I think his frame at this particular moment could, improve. Obviously, that just is focusing on conditioning and getting stronger, filling out in his body. He's really young still.
This is a perfect fit for Essengate. For him, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So I love this.
I think this is a good fit for him. I think you could see his potential realized here, especially with other players that I think will sharpen kind of the iron that he needs to be. So I think that's kind of where I was going with thought as far as he's concerned. So yeah.
All right, we'll move on now.
No notes. No notes. Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll move on now to the 12th selection. Nick Robbins has been waiting since the very beginning for this one. With the Chicago Bulls, Jordan, you will be selecting who you got.
Yeah,
you better get this pick right, man. I'm not going.
Yeah, no, Nick's putting a lot of pressure on me. My needs here, I have bigs, wings, defense, and shooting. Those are my needs. So, which is pretty much everybody.
There's one player in particular. I'm looking for this player, man.
And see, this is where I want to go big. And so the only big to me in this tier that's left, I think is Sorber.
Hey, you got it. Oh my God.
I think Sorber, to me, he does so many different things that they need. First off, the rim protection that he brings, I believe that the jumper is going to eventually come around. I like his passing out of the post. So to me, he does just a little bit of everything. I see a lot of comps to like Al Horford with him. I don't know that I love that. I don't know that he's like that. Yeah, I don't know that he's the mental ability of Horford is just he's way farther ahead than Sorber in my mind. So I actually think that he's, if you could do the physical abilities of Horford, but just mentally, I think Horford thought the game at such a higher level than like if he thought the game at an Al Horford level, we'd be talking about Sorber at like the number 2 or 3 pick,
Right.
So.
All right, Jordan, let me ask you this, right? So you outlined your 3 needs as size, shooting, and bigs, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Wings as well, but
wings, sure. All right, that makes my point even better. How do you feel about Rasheed Fleming at this spot, right?
That was the other one I was so.
He measured out with like a Jarrett Allen type frame, measured out really, really well. I think there's a legitimate chance he can play some 5 at the NBA level. In fact, he definitely can, right? He can play anywhere from 3 through 5, legitimately. He provides the shooting, he provides the positional length, crazy wingspan, builds out well. I think he's probably, in my opinion, the best pick here, right?
So that was the 2 that I was going between is Fleming and Sorber. I feel like Sorber can start at the 5 and stay at the 5. And that's the difference to me is because I feel like Vucevic has got to go. Like it's his time in Chicago is over. And I think that there's so much overlap between Fleming and Matas that I stick with Matas and I want to build around Matas in that front court.
Matas is a lot more on the ball than Rasheed Fleming would be. Fleming,
that's true. He is
moving off the ball. That's his strength, right? And in terms of what he brings to the offensive game, primarily it's moving off the ball and setting good screens. I'm not certain how the overlap works there personally. I actually think they work quite well together.
I think they can work together, but to me, that idea of the versatile forward big, because I think Matas can guard some 5s by the time he falls out too. So I feel like that mold has already been there, and I would like to get another tool in the club.
Matas, he's not built out yet. He can't really guard 5s, legitimately.
Not yet, but I think eventually he could get there.
It's more
talking about a young guy.
2 versatile guys with plenty of length that can do anything defensively. And
it was close. And I will say it this way: if I'm looking just at my big board, Fleming is higher. But I think
I'm sure he fell as far, man. I almost forgot he was on the board.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Fleming is still here. Especially after I really thought you were going with him with Portland, but also like Essengay is also a perfect fit in Portland, so like I get that. Man, I think I'm still gonna stick with Sorber because I do think I'm higher on his potential than I think some of the other guys are. I do think that Sorber is eventually going to shoot, and having an actual 5 that can shoot next to Matas is going to be.
White.
And Kobe White is there. Giddy, I think, is going to come back. I think that he unlocks Giddy in another way too. So like, I don't know. I really think that Sorber is my guy here, but Fleming is like also like right. Like I could go either way on that.
All right. Well, Kyle, you're up now with the 13th selection for Atlanta. Who you taking?
I had 13.
Yes.
Did I? Oh man. Did not show up here. Okay. Well, 13. That's tough.
Yeah, this is a hard one.
To me, it was difficult to think what of their wants. They don't. I can't. I'm trying to think here. Jalen Johnson fills the spot. They don't need a point guard per se because they have Trey. Don't know what that looks.
And Dyson, yeah.
Right. I don't know if they moved the pick, and maybe it was an oversight by me, but if they do pick, man, because to me, you're at this point, you're not picking a player you're not picking for backup, right? Like that.
Is Rashid Fleming in play here to make like the ultimate defense around Dyson Daniels to try and deal with the deficiencies that Trey Young brings?
Johnson and Fleming would be an absolute nightmare to play against.
I can see that would like
Dyson, guys, and Dyson, like, and on your
and a Kongwu, and
that's a fun team.
Yeah, I can see that being. I was
thinking Carter Bryant as well.
I was going to say Carter, just because
I believe in Carter's shooting more than Fleming's.
I think
absolutely. I'm not as big. He's not the shooter he was this year. But if he can be anywhere near that, if he can shoot 37%, 36%, I'm thrilled with that.
Yeah.
To me, it really just depends. Based on who we have left on the board, crazy enough. It's funny. I could see Atlanta going Issa Newell.
Issa Newell?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
And I say that because just his vertical ability. I do again, and I've said this about a few players, but it's noticeable, especially because of the type of style of game. I do think he needs to get stronger hip wise, core wise. Just the post game he had college wise may not translate fully to the pro side. Especially if that's going to be his game. So to me, I think Newell would be interesting simply because of now I'm not saying I'm not picking Newell over. I'm just saying that Atlanta can go a multitude of directions here as far as talent is concerned, and picking guys who fit kind of what they want scheme wise, defensively. I think he's athletic enough to play with them. They run the floor a lot. That's one of their biggest strengths. Having watched them play in the play-in, watch them play over the season. They've won some games, came back from games just playing good defense and running the floor. So I think Newell is another interesting selection that could possibly be there. I think they have the luxury of picking whoever they want here. Whoever impresses them most at 13. Whether that's Fleming, Newell, or Carter Bryant, I think McNeely could be interesting just from the shooting perspective.
Yeah.
Obviously not the perfect fit, but I think that's another pick that could probably work. So to me, those are some of the options in my opinion. I wasn't sure about that pick. It was really difficult. I didn't have even something down for them because I was like, man, what do they fill? What do they feel like? Are you backfilling to have depth? Are you picking for depth here? And are any of the players left on the board, ready to start? I'm not saying that they would, but just like you're not slotting any of the guys at 13 at this point, at least at this point, over the guys they currently have in their starting lineup. Especially if Jalen Johnson is healthy. You got Daniels next to Trey. Okongwu is going to start. So then where you go here, right? So to me, that they have the luxury of being able to pick whatever they decide. whether they're going to pick for shooting or pick for size. So,
But you got to lock in a pick.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got to choose somebody.
I picked. I'm going to go Newell. I'm going to go Newell.
Okay.
So I said I was going to mention this when Newell got picked. Are we sure that the guy from Stanford? My French speakers are going to be mad at me. Renaud. Yeah. Are we sure he's not better than Newell? Like, are we sure? Because I know he's older.
Also, it's worth noting, Renaud does have a lot more upside than you would think. He's 22, but he picked up basketball 5 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot more going into it. And from everything I've heard, he's like, I've spoken to a few scouts and people that work with these teams. And I also spoke to a assistant coach at Stanford. This dude is literally a genius. Like, literally, in terms of his IQ, he is like actually a genius in terms of how he ranks against the general population. And the way he takes in basketball is just at such a high level. He really should be in playing the lottery, man. Yeah,
and so that's I just had in my notes that I was going if Newell went, I was going to mention Renaud. So I'm not saying Newell's a bad pick, but I had that in my notes that I needed to do that.
I think the reason why people will probably go for Newell over, I mean, I know like player for player, obviously,
it's the age.
It's age. Like I was gonna say, quite literally, his age, and also just like what you could get from Newell as a two-way player might just end up being more valuable because I don't see Maxime Renaud ever being a two-way player. He's just too weak defensively, and for his size or whatnot, like take it for what it's worth. It's not strong. He's not a great. He's not gonna really box out like crazy for rebounds, especially against NBA bigs. Like if I see him versus Steven Adams in the box, I'm gonna probably turn off my TV, bro. Like
to be fair, there's very few people that Steven Adams isn't boxing out.
It's no diss to Maxime. Maxime Renaud is a great player. Don't get me wrong, but I think what you're gonna get like one player for player 1v1. I think in the long term, I'd probably pick Asa overall because it's like if Asa first year doesn't go well, maybe you send him to the G League. Maybe he cooks in the G League, comes back and stuff. But with Maxime, when you're already 22, 23 years old, you don't have really that time to do it because usually it's like first year whatnot. You could go to the G League and then you're usually stuck there. So that's what I'm saying. It's like probably Asa Newell is probably the better pick at this rate.
All right, we're moving forward to the 14th selection, the final pick in the lottery. I'm up with the San Antonio Spurs. I had two players in play here, right? Rasheed Fleming, who I have pitched about 5 times now. I'm not going to go through him again, right? And Noah Pender.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my two at this spot. I really like Pender's fit with the Spurs. I feel like he's just a far better fit for this team than Sohan. Maybe Sohan's an interesting piece off the bench, right? They're a wild card piece, but the Pender, you get the playmaking, really impressive playmaker, right? You get the shooting, you get the defense. He's really built out for his age, right? He feels like a sure thing, but still has a high upside, which is something you don't see often at this point in the draft, right? However, with that said, I am really excited to see a potential team of Stephon Castle, Rasheed Fleming, and Victor Wembanyama. That is like as someone who loves defense, man, that really excites me, right? And yeah, I just love to see it. The amount of length there, right? Potentially, if you could run Stephon Castle at the 1, you could have Dylan Harper at the 2, Harrison Barnes at the 3, Rasheed Fleming at the 4, and Victor Wembanyama at the 5 as a potential lineup. There's just so much length there.
Or Vassell instead of
Devin Vassell,
Barnes.
Yeah,
instead
for sure. That really excites me, and that really moves. And I think that Rasheed Fleming, this is a crazy value at 14. People attack the depth of this draft, man. But you're getting someone like Rasheed Fleming at 14 to the Spurs. This is someone who could be on that team for the next 10 years.
Seriously.
Maybe even beyond that. Right? He's a legitimate, potentially a 10 to 15-year player with the Spurs because the fit is so perfect with Victor Wembanyama. I don't see because barring any kind of chemistry issues or disasters with the team or the front office, that fit is so perfect. I don't see them moving off him at any point as long as he doesn't bust, which he's not going to bust.
I don't think so.
Right. So he's such a safe pick, man. And this is like a dream scenario. Man, remember that tweet we saw a couple months ago with the Spurs, this is the great we speak of from the Bible. To walk out of this draft with Dylan Harper and Rasheed Fleming is such bullshit. It just is, man. It's just, there's this.
It's wild.
No
It's
way
wild.
anyone can justify this as fair, man. It's crazy, but here we are, and if I'm the Spurs, I'm jumping at this.
Seriously, it's such a good fit.
I think
in a world where Fleming is gone, I definitely see Pinda as the guy. But just being the way that they love French prospects, the way he fits what they need. So I can see Pinda in any other world, but the fact that Fleming is still here is what happens.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that because I think some teams are just gonna end up. Now, will he fall to him in a real life scenario? That remains to be seen. But just in case he does, that's just like the best player
It's
available.
realistic, man.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other player at this rate that you pick at that spot over him. I think that's probably just the best player available in my opinion. But I think the shooting, like I think the shooting, the wingspan, the defensive versatility, being able to guard a lot of positions. Like I said, maybe a small ball 5. He is about 6'9". I can't remember his draft measurement specifically, but I believe he tested pretty well there.
7'6" wingspan.
Yeah, he had 7'6" wingspan and everything. At this thing, there's just a lot. I think
I tried. I was playing 2K. I was playing 2K a couple of days ago. I tried to make a Rasheed Fleming build. You can't even do it in the game.
They won't let you.
People say he's got a video game character build. No, he's beyond that, right?
So
this is a fictional character. You look at Wemby, that's a fictional
Another
character.
fictional character, yes.
Right? You get Rasheed Fleming as well. Like, I can't imagine the perfect fit.
And his basketball IQ is one of the things that I love the most.
Especially on defense. And a defense built with Wemby and Fleming is everyone was salivating at Wemby and Cooper. This is as close.
They were never gonna get Cooper, bro. Let's be for real. They were.
But this is as close as you can get to Wemby and Cooper, and you still got Harper.
Yes, Nico Harrison still has the first pick. It's still in his control. But
I'm just saying my prayers were answered. That's all I'm saying about the number 1 pick.
For sure, man. Like it's just the dream scenario for sure for the Spurs. But next up with the 15th selection, Mike, you're up with the OKC Thunder. Who's your pick?
Nick Clifford. I think Nick Clifford.
Walk me through. What's the idea there?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think there's anything that the team needs to add a crazy amount other than more, probably just more depth. To be honest with you, I think what Nick Clifford, what he offers, the amount of experience that he has, and just what I saw from him at Colorado State, especially this last season, I like what I see from him, just being probably. I think I saw a lot of 3-level scoring or some 3-level scoring ability. I saw some defensive flashes, especially on and off ball. But to be honest with you, I really like what I saw from him in March Madness, to where I just think you really just can't go with him. You can't go wrong with him. And just in case everyone probably knows this, I don't know how many picks they have. They have too many picks. OKC. So if there's whatever that they can get wrong here, it'll probably be Nick Clifford. What's ironic is that my NBA comparison for him is actually already on OKC. My NBA comparison for Nick Clifford is actually Aaron Wiggins. So if you can have another Aaron Wiggins 2.0 on that team, I just think that just does a lot for your depth, because you have to remember these people, they're going to be signing new contracts. They're not going to be on rookie contracts forever. And then when you're thinking about, now J-Dub, especially what he showed, because for me, it was J-Dub being a reliable number 2 option. Crazy enough, even though he's still really young, I think this year was really are you really number 2 option for real? Because in a lot of the games this playoffs, I think he wasn't, up to par. The shooting was really off, and the scoring was really off. But I think in Game 7, he really he kind of put himself back in there in a way. And then so you have to think of Shea, J-Dub, and Chet, and then you got the other core pieces around that. So what you want to do, you want to have as many, rookie contracts or rookie players or young players alongside the main 3 of Shea, J-Dub, and Chet that can really provide a lot of depth whether it's 3-point shooting, playmaking, defense, rebounding, physicality, height, whatever you're looking for. And I just think you're going to get the most of it out of Nick Clifford, to be honest with you, at this rate. There are other players, other avenues that they can go with. Obviously, they can go younger. Like I know last draft they went with Nikola Topic or Nikola Topic. Yeah, so that they went with, and he also hasn't played a single game last year. This season, and he was arguably the best passer, like seen as the best passer in last year's draft. So yeah, I think this year they'll probably just go with someone that's a bit more experienced and that can really just come in and have a role for a set from day one. Obviously, Summer League, how he fares out in the Summer League will have a lot to do. I think that'll say in the preseason will say a lot in terms of how much of a role, minutes wise, he will have at OKC next season. But I think that's probably the best pick for them at this point.
I think that I would add to me that Carter Bryant would be another option. I think that they need to look at.
He's still in the ball.
Yeah. So as I think that they need a forward size guy, and I think they need another forward size guy. And Carter Bryant to me seems to be the guy that I would also look at. But I totally understand going Nick Clifford here too, especially with having multiple picks. I think that he's a good safe pick. So I don't dislike the pick, but I think I would have gone with Carter Bryant.
I think with Carter, that's the thing. I think with Carter, I think one of the reasons why they'll go with Carter, yes, you have the defensive versatility, but you already have a lot of defensive versatility in this team. I didn't even mention Lou Dort. Lou Dort is still on this team. So they have too many picks for their own good and too many players and too much depth in this team. And at this rate, they'll just go for a guy that's experienced, 18.9 points per game. You shot 37.7% from three on about 5 attempts. And like I said, you're just gonna get 4.4 assists to 2.6 turnovers. You have a guy that can pass and he can kind of rebound, and then he can also kind of shoot. Now he can shoot really well. So when Nick Clifford's on a heater, he's on a heater. And like I said, potential 3-level scoring off the bench, you're probably just gonna go with Clifford at this rate. Carter is just much more of a project. Like I said, if they really want a shooter, they'll probably just trade for a shooter. If they really want to trade for a shooter, they'll probably go with Cam Johnson and just trade for. They have all
fair.
They have what they need. They have what it takes to trade for Cam Johnson.
This is also the greed we've seen in the Bible.
Exactly. I think it's more okay. It's more OKC than anything, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's my pick at this point. It's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, next up with the 16th overall selection, we got Kyle with the Orlando Magic. What is your pick?
I went Nolan Traore, actually.
Wait,
I agree.
I love that, man.
I agree.
I go Nolan because they need a point guard. They need somebody who's young, who has some upside. Plays with pace, and to me, I comped him as Brogdon pre-injury. Just the ability to play smart basketball, make smart decisions. Obviously, again, I think he's only 18 or 19. Mm-hmm. He has so much time to improve, and I think the Magic are really going to be patient with him as it pertains to what his development looks like, and kind of learning from some of the other guards on there on playing at the NBA level and kind of the physicality that it requires and what his body needs to look like, what it needs to feel like, what his conditioning needs to be like. So if I had to pick, it would pick a place for him to kind of hone his skills and fit a need that they need. It would be here at the Magic at 16. So,
and I think they needed a playmaker. And there were 3 international playmakers that you could choose from with Kasparis, Igor, and him. And he's the only one that can shoot. And they also need shooting.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up a good point. Wait, Nick, you want to go first? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, man. The Magic signed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, right? And everyone's very hard on that because everyone said they needed shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree significantly. I didn't like that pickup at all. I mean, it was a good pickup, right? But it didn't address the real need. The real need, which I said then and I'll say now again, because it hasn't, in fact, it's actually gotten worse, right? They need scoring. They don't just need shooting, they need scoring. There's a very convenience, right? Now, shooting helps with scoring, helps your scorers, right? But you need scorers in there in the first place to be able to even kickstart that process. Nolan Traore provides that. I'm not sure if you guys were there when he had that 50-point game at
Yeah.
AGT, right? This guy can score the basketball, man. I
Mhm.
have to kind of censor myself a bit there, but he is everything.
I'm a little
you
miffed
need
because
to
I
be.
have the Timberwolves and that's who I was targeting. So
Yeah. So I think with Magic, I think yes they need scoring, but okay. So I'm gonna just say right now, because I'm a Celtics fan, right? So I watched the Magic against the Celtics. Obviously, I watched every game. I'll say scoring is a need, but I don't think it's. They have Franz Wagner and they have Paolo Banchero, and Paolo Banchero is slowly transcending into a superstar, in my opinion, and he's an amazing scorer.
Yeah.
And so is Franz Wagner in his own right and whatnot. I think you just have enough scoring. I mean, you have some scoring, and you could obviously use more, but for me, it's also it's 3-point. They cannot shoot to save their lives. That I've seen like open threes, like brick, they're building like firehouse brick houses, or that's what they were doing against. Like they were extremely bad, like from three. So for me, it would have been Jace Richardson if he didn't like Jace Richardson would have been the clear cut pick had he not tested probably a bit lower because he's listed at what 6'2", and he only measured in at like what 6 foot and like 3/4 or something
Yeah.
like that.
He was listed at 6'3", and he ended up being way shorter than that.
Yeah, so I think at that point you just go with people who are a bit more reliable from 3.
Mhm.
So I think you either still go with Jace, because even as someone who's only 6 foot, because he played, I think he really played his butt off like last year at Michigan State, despite only being actually like about like 6'1" with shoes. I think what he does from 3, the off ball scoring, and he's being able to get to his spots off ball, whether it's in transition or whether it's using screens, right? He's also he out of a lot of players, he's very brave. Like he's not afraid to like take shots. He's not afraid of the big moment. I've seen that. Like Tom Izzo needed him, to get a shot off in the clutch and whatnot. It's Jace Richardson ain't scared of the big moment. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So I think Jace Richardson it still wouldn't be a bad pick at this point. I also think Chakasionis will also be a better pick. I know people are really low on him because of the lack of physicality, lack of ability to get to the rim and whatnot. But you already have people who can do that, like Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. So I don't really necessarily think you need that at a crazy amount. I still like him as a playmaker and also as a 3-point shooter, to where I think those two would be better. I think Nolan has a lot of potential, and in the right, like let's just say the 3-point scoring on whatever was like, if he was shooting at least like 35%, I'll probably be more optimistic with picking Nolan at the spot. But I think it's just been a lot more inconsistent. And also everyone needs to remember, this French league, it's not like it's not like a whatever league. It's also a very, very talented league. So to be shooting around like 30% on, it's probably not the best thing especially for a team that's, I think, was ranked last in 3-point shooting during the regular season. So they just need surefire 3-point shooters. So that's what I'm gonna say.
All right. Well, next up with the 17th selection, we have Jordan with the Timberwolves. Jordan, who are you saying?
Okay, so my needs are playmaking and shooting, and so it's just kind of which one am I going with? Because playmaking is Kasparis or Dimon. I don't love those fits I don't love them in Minnesota at all. I think that both of them need a little bit more room to explore than they're going to get in Minnesota. So since I don't have the option to take Nolan, I think I'm actually going to go with the shooting, and I'm still shocked he's still here. This is my Carter Bryant pick. I just think that we've talked about it. We've mentioned him a couple of times. I think this is time for Carter Bryant. He's a good shooter, good defender. He doesn't have to start in Minnesota.
Right.
So he can come along slowly, just really develop. I think he's going to, by the time that Randall's next deal is done, he might be the starter to replace Randall. So I think this is great.
Yeah, man. But we were speaking about him, 9 picks ago? Right?
Yes.
As a very, very legitimate pick. There's no way he's available in real life at this spot. I don't think he's getting some top 6 buzz, right? But if you can land him here, all power to you, right? I think he's a great fit. Like you said, he's that kind of down the line Julius Randle replacement. And I think he slots in quite well to that role. Not the Julius Randle role that we think of now, but the Julius Randle role that he's playing now.
Right.
Yes.
Not your typical Julius Randle, but the role that he's playing now is exactly like Carter Bryant fits that to a T, right? And I love that.
And I think that when you're looking at, I think he's overrated if we're taking him in the top 6 that like people are talking about. But I think
I've never heard
anywhere
I was going to question that. Like I've never heard that before.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of it lately. And so to me, if you're anywhere between 10 and like I can't imagine he would last to 17. Definitely not past the Timberwolves.
Carter.
So yeah.
No.
Like I
think he could because he has people are really questioning like the scoring, especially on ball scoring. That's probably the thing that people are questioning the most.
But that's not his role. It's
not necessarily his role, but considering he's going from being someone who's like, okay, now he's touted to be one of the better like 3-point scorers and whatnot. You probably just want a bit more from him on ball.
But he's also a really good defender. That's the
I get that, but you also don't want to end up with like certain scenarios where he's just because I think for me to stay on an NBA court, to stay on an NBA team, it can't just only be defense, and then the 3 is like a hit or miss for like certain years, because at that point you're gonna have people like with how worldwide the NBA is getting and how many different type of prospects you're able to do like both and do both that much more consistently than you. If it's just defense and you're like 3, it's like hit or miss, you're going to be out of the NBA more than likely sooner or later. So I think with Jordan, it's just more of like a project to where I can easily see him falling it wouldn't be falling. He's top 20, but I think like mid-late first round is probably a better projection for him.
I disagree with the notion that he's a bit of a project. I think he's one of the more sure things in the class. I think he has probably the most projectable role in the class coming into his rookie year. Outside the top 5. Now, from what I know, there is some serious interest from the Wizards at 6 in Carter Bryant. As in, he's probably one of their, I think from what I know, in their 3 favorite prospects. Right? Mm-hmm. And going back, looking at the order, purely from a fit standpoint and me analyzing who else will be available, there is a chance I think he falls to 15 to the Thunder.
Yeah,
right?
I really was surprised you didn't take him at the Thunder.
Man. But
I was just going for more experience and just better.
I understand that. Because the Thunder, they kind of go back and forth between they want experience or they want.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying like last year, I don't think back-to-back years they're picking like 19-year-old guys that like are gonna be like, oh well, this guy could maybe fit into the lineup like if we play him a little bit and whatnot. I think this year probably they'll just go for more experience, especially seeing what I'm seeing now and for OKC in the playoffs. I don't think they'll throw another 19-year-old into that mix, especially seeing how stacked the West is and how tough the playoffs have been. I don't think they throw another 19-year-old into that mix.
When I think of targeting experience, right, you're thinking of targeting someone that has a projectable role and can come in and contribute immediately. I think Carter has that, and I don't think Carter has any kind of issues in terms of the mental game. Carter might be the strongest prospect in this class, man. He just says everything right, man. Like, I'm totally in love with this kid.
And his role is simple. It's not, he doesn't have to overthink.
He's not on the ball. That's not his role. He's moving off the ball. He's creating shots with his movement. He's cutting. He's setting screens, and he's knocking down shots, right?
And he's so good at that.
There's no real need for experience there. And he's already good enough at it to do it at the NBA level, at a playoff level, I believe, right? At this point, a year away from him having to do it next year. If he goes to
unless the shot just completely disappears, I don't see him busting.
And in which case, they have guys like Aaron Wiggins to step into that.
Yep.
Right, with the Thunder. So I don't see him moving past that realistically. And I do think that he might be the odds-on favorite to go at 6, if I had to put a number on it right now.
Wow.
Now, a lot can change between now and the draft.
And I do think if he doesn't go 6, he's dropping pretty far. So like, it's not. But yeah, I do see that.
I would say with confidence. There's no way Carter, and it's not. And I agree. I think it has a lot of potential to do. Or like I said, his role is fairly simple for what he does. But I think like Nick Clifford's role, like what they would want Nick Clifford to do, also isn't crazy as well. They don't want it's like they want him to do everything, but he can do a bit of everything, and we've seen him do that for years. For where with Carter, it's just like, well, it's 1 year, and he has shown a lot of potential, but just some of the things, there's just more question marks about his overall game, and he's not as versatile as a player, in my opinion, as Nick Clifford, especially offensively. So that's one of the reasons why I just think they would go with Nick Clifford, because Nick Clifford's best fit is being that role player off the bench on like a playoff team. And OKC is literally the perfect example of that, to where Carter is just like, that's why I'm calling him more of a project, because I think he could be more than what he is right now. But I don't see him being that as long as he's being that like mid like rotation, whatever, or like end of the bench guy on OKC. I don't think his potential is going to be unlocked in OKC from being 100%.
Can I just say, I agree with. Like, you made some good points there, but with the Wizards thing, that's an intel thing. That's not a personal opinion of mine. That's all I'm. Yeah. Anyway, we should probably move on now to the 18th selection. Right at 18, we have Washington. I believe this is Kyle's pick.
Is it me? Is it me? I have.
I can take it. All right. Looking at who's on the board, who do we have? I wasn't prepared for this. I thought I had a minute to call.
Yeah, you didn't actually put who is 18 in the chat.
That's my bad. That's my bad. Okay. Okay.
I can look in the other.
No, I got it. All right. So who's available?
I mean, to me, can I make a pitch? Because I think this is a Kasparis or Igor spot. Like, I think that I think Washington could go for a more tall playmaker, because they've got some, there's Bub, but Poole is really short. I think you just want to start getting swings now as Washington, and so I could see Igor going here personally.
I actually
I don't hate it. How do you guys feel about? Maybe like, is this a J.H. Richardson landing spot? Is this
not with Bub, not with Bub and Jordan Poole in that rotation.
Yeah.
All right, here's a spat of the work.
I was gonna say Therio, actually.
Aduciero?
Aduciero?
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
I really hate him. Super athletic, gets the rim really, really well. Super strong.
I thought that would be. I didn't know who had 18, so I was like,
Yeah, okay. Well, I think he's kind of like a Harmy Harkes type guy. High energy, makes hustle plays, finishes really, really well for rim.
My comp for him is Lou Dort.
Super athletic, super strong, super explosive. I think I'm gonna go Danny Wolfield, man. Though I like Danny Wolfield.
Oh, yep, I like it.
That one too.
Right, Danny Wolf, I think a front court of Alex Sarr and Danny Wolf. My preferable front court would have been Alex Sarr and Carmen. I know I keep going back to that, but that really excites me. But if not for that, having two unicorn, I say lightly, guys in Alex Sarr and Danny Wolf is a really interesting front court. There's a lot of offense you can do that, and you can become one of the best offensive, young offensive cores in the league, right? I mean, you got Bob Carrington, Jordan Poole. I don't know if you can consider Jordan Poole part of that young core. I do. Alex Sarr, right? You got Conker Nipple, and now you also add Danny Wolf. Purely from an offensive perspective, that's a really, really fun team.
Yeah,
and there's a lot
I really like that. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm taking Danny Wolf there at 18. So at 19 now, we have Brooklyn. This is my pick again. Okay.
Yeah, Nick, I think you skipped 18 when you were
dividing them out.
Okay, so I think here is a good landing top for Cedric Coward. A do-it-all guy. I like Cedric Coward here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't. Who?
Cedric Coward.
Okay, got you.
Washington State.
Right, good defender, can knock down shots, does a little bit of everything. I feel like
He's also
pretty
the
sure
hot
he
name
could be
right
an
now.
NBA player. Very
He's-
hot, man. Can I just say, I'm not saying I started the Cedric Coward hype train, but if you go back and you look at the dates when he started actually getting NBA draft traction, my article on him, I did an article start of the year when he had just transferred from Eastern Washington, and he was my most underrated player in the 2025 drafts, which I said about 18 months ago. And man, that's probably been my best take ever so far.
It's interesting to me that because I read a comment that was like, I don't know, Cowards had no draft buzz all year, and like you were early on him, Rafael Barlow was early on him, and Sam Vecini. So I'm like, who else are we like Barlow and Vecini are the guys. So like, how are we saying
Barlow, Vecini, and are the guys?
Yeah, okay, yeah, and Nick, they're the guys in the draft space. So like, how are we saying no one? Like, who are we listening to if not those guys? So that was weird to me when people are acting like he came out of nowhere.
I think that was it. I think it's a
It's
matter
probably
of
the conference or the team it's probably
That's
more
what I
of
was
the
going
Yeah.
conference the team he played for, and that's probably the similar thing with.
And also, we're using played loosely because he's been injured.
Yeah, it's probably a conference team he played for. Like I know he entered the draft. That's probably the weird thing about this draft in NIL. There's multiple guys that still have college eligibility and committed somewhere else. Like he's committed. Didn't he commit to Duke, or is he just in the portal?
he
So no,
tested.
he's committed to Duke if he withdraws from the draft. So right now it looks like about a 80% chance from what I know. I know his agent. It looks 80%. He's tipping his toes in, getting feedback from teams. If he can get a promise in the first round, he's staying in, and that's gonna happen. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't see him going back to Duke.
Yeah, not at this rate. I think he had a
he's
really
signed up for
good.
the photo shoot. That's it.
I think the little gap between the end of the college season and then like the workouts with teams and the combine, I think that's worked out really well for Cedric Coward and not
Well,
just
yeah, I mean,
Cedric
obviously, because he measured amazing. He looks like he's going to do good in a workout setting. Like he's going like that. That is his game.
I think Yaxel Lindenberg was also another player that committed to Michigan. But at this rate, it's just like, okay, well, do you really see both players falling out the first round? And for me, it's just like no. I think it's a high possibility they both end up as first rounders, especially with the amount of people. Like I had JT Toppin like top 20, and JT Toppin returned to college. So I think. Yeah, I think at this rate, I think it's. I'll be pretty confident. I'm pretty confident in both players staying at this rate. So, Nick, y'all good?
Yeah, man. I just got bitten by a massive spider.
Really?
Australia.
We're not for Kevin.
I say this as someone who lives in Africa, Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got it out of the room. That's why it's my camera off. But
is it still alive?
I don't know. If it starts filling up, I might have to go. But we'll continue on for now.
Oh, like Nick, is it still in your room?
No, I've dealt with it. I've chucked it. That's why I turned the camera off. I just chucked it out. All right. So we're up to.
This is the wildest thing. That's just more insane than any of the picks in the draft.
My goodness.
All right.
Miami.
So Miami's up next. Mike, this is your pick. If I disappear, you guys know why.
Jack, I believe Jacqueline is still on the board. I think that's probably who they go with at this rate. I think that's just probably the best pick at this rate. What's crazy is I remember Jacqueline being in being picked number 3, like in that category for I think quite a bit of the season. It was like towards the latter half. But I remember it's like against like key games, like against like Michigan, where I feel like he really fell because it was just the lack of physical, just to show like lack of physical and just able to like not really get to the rim well, like at all. Like he'll go to the rim and then he'll like go up like really weak. I remember he did that multiple times, I believe, in that game alone. And just in other games, it wasn't great. So it's like, okay, well, if you're not getting to the rim, you're just relying on your outside shot, which is good, but it's not great to where it's like, oh yeah, I can just look past like you going up to the rim and it's like it looks really weak. But like I think at this point you don't pass up on him. I think what he does as a ball handler and just an overall just a really good like point guard. I think and just like shooting wise, I just think what he does for you. I think that's who they go with at this rate. I know they're trying to run Davion Mitchell and Tyler Hero backcourt in Miami right now. I think if you add Kasparov to that, I think that would be a really good mix. Maybe he in the future, especially if he develops, physically, maybe he provides what Goran Dragic was adding, when he was a guard in Miami, because that's kind of like that's partial maybe comparison for him in a way. But I think I think Kasparov is probably your best pick at this point. I don't think there's really a lot of players that
for sure. Definitely the highest upside, best player available for sure.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about strength being his weakness, what team do we expect to fix that the most?
Miami.
Yeah, well, as a and this is probably my first time saying it live, as a Heat fan, I don't think they go this direction at all. I think they actually go Cam Jones here.
I love Cam Jones. I'm so glad he got that. Okay,
Marquette guy, plays defense, just does the things that they want out of a guard. And they do need the a point guard position kind of like addressed. So I thought it would either be him or I thought it would be Lindenberg or Borg, just because of his versatility defensively, the way he plays with energy. They love those kind of guys that are glue guys. So to me, I thought it was going to be that, mainly because unfortunately to me, I think Kasparis does a lot of Tyler Hero things. We already have one Tyler Hero. And so to me, you're not adding an additional one. No knocks on Tyler Hero. I just think you want a guy
that's all I know, bro. Like I'm a Celtics fan, but that sounds like Hero here to me, bro. I'm just saying.
I think to me it's just one of those things where you want a guy who's going to play on both sides of the ball, and having an additional guy, in my opinion, who does not give you two-way potency is worrying to me. Now, if he shows something differently on the pro level, then I'm like, okay, hey, I was wrong about this. But to me, he hasn't shown anything defensively that would say, hey, you know what, we'll take him, especially because of the lack of explosiveness. And explosiveness doesn't mean he has to dunk the ball. Explosiveness means being able to get to the rim and deal with.
He doesn't have a crazy first step either. So yeah,
right. And that to me, and you mentioned
and
Dragic,
doesn't make up for it with his handle.
Right.
Yep.
To me, the thing with Dragic is that two things. One, he was very crafty around the basket.
Much faster.
Oh no, I said he has to develop physically. And
right. No, I'm just saying as a get to point. If he's going to have similar tools or skill set, the craftiness will have to change a little bit. And then to me, pacing. Dragic got to spots fast. I just don't think Kasparis at this particular point gets there fast enough. And so to me, for a team that just struggled with rim pressure this year, I just can't imagine that that's the pick over a Cam, or if they're going to go with size. Even if I'm not saying super size, I would say maybe even Pettiford, who really just
that was what I was thinking. Mm-hmm.
Showed the ability to explode, makes good reads passing wise. And just looks like he knows how to control pace for a team. So to me, those to me would be the better picks there. And this is no knock on Kasper. I need to see something, both physically and skill set wise that shows he can be effective on the NBA level as far as getting scoring wise, and then also being able to create his shot. He's going to have to get to spots a lot faster.
All right. Well,
Nick, just to FYI, you have your fellow Australian in the chat. He's asking you about the question.
Okay, so we have a question here from what? What does the Australian lad think of Lachlan Olbrich? man, he's probably the biggest riser so far of the pre-draft process. From a guy that was completely undraftable, in my opinion, to someone who I'm still not very high on, but I can see getting drafted. He made the main combine after receiving a call-up from the G League Elite camp. Played like a second-round pick caliber player, super assertive, great decision-making, showed some really good touch around the basket, and displayed a really great motor. All of which things he kind of showed in Illawarra, but wasn't to the same level. But overall, man, he just displayed like great two-way potential. It was all over the floor on both ends. And yeah, man, I think it's a legitimate chance he can get drafted, which if you asked me that 2 weeks ago, I would say that, like I said 2 weeks ago, he is the worst draft entrant of this class. Early entrant. I was so incredibly low on Ulbrich. I'm forced to be a little bit higher now because of what he showed. But there's a very legitimate chance he gets picked up at the back end of the second round. Or very likely he ends up on a two-way or an Exhibit 10, maybe a training camp deal. That's probably the most realistic outcome for Lachlan Ulbrich.
Well, I think he could also be a stash option if someone wants to stash somebody. I think he's like the Mavs did with Ajinça. Like I think that he could be that kind of.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, moving on now to the 21st overall selection. This is Utah via Minnesota from the Rudy Gobert trade, still paying dividends. Kyle, this is yours.
I actually went Demon here.
I was about to say somebody's got to take Demon eventually.
This is where I went Demon, and I went Demon mainly because if you grab Trey Johnson, who's going to get you a bucket, you need playmaking, and so to me, I thought, there's been a lot of questions about his pace. I think he gets where he wants to get to. I think that's going to increase. My comp for him was Josh Giddey, just a bigger guard who playmakes. I think he's going to show some interesting rebounding prowess, possibly depending on how he learns his positioning. And also for a team that is looking for somebody to get everyone involved, I think he has a pass first in mentality. And I think also that one of the biggest things is that from what I can tell, he has a lot of intangibles. He's coachable. Looks like he's a sponge for basketball and just wants to get better. And so to me, I think for a team that I, again, still have no idea what the build is, not sure what type of identity the Jazz are going for. But I do believe that he fits the need there. And also I think he also fits size wise, just having a bigger point guard could give them some interesting looks next to some of the players they currently have. So I think Igor Demon goes here at 21 to the Jazz. I think he's going to show a lot of people, who were a little bit low on him. One of the things that he does best is this passing, just the playmaking ability. I think can really, really improve. I think we're just seeing kind of the glimpses of it. And so for a big guard at that size, if he's available at 21, I assume you take him. Just can't imagine that you would pass up on him unless you're a different team and you need different needs.
If the Jazz take Igor Demon, is that them giving up on Keontae George?
No. But I think that readjusts where Keontae plays. I think that they what they have now is a embarrassment of riches as far as scoring guards. Just the ability to get different looks at who can score where, and a different approach of how to score in different ways. They're both athletic, Trey Johnson and Keontae George. So to me, I think you have options now. You have depth. You can kind of figure out what you want from each player and kind of what you want out of their role, and seeing what Trey Johnson can do on the pro level. Just seeing if he can, be effective scoring wise, if he can be prolific, making decisions. I'm not asking for him to, on the Jazz, I think we mentioned this earlier, I'm not asking for him to be a playmaker. I'm asking him to make shots. They struggled with scoring last season, I think. And so you have the ability to get two guys who do scoring well, and can be respectable on defense. So
I've been impressed with Demon the in this gap between the draft and the end of the season. I thought that his shot looks significantly better at the pro days and at the combines. I still worry about his handle as someone who, I'm not sure that his handle lets him be as functional of a passer as his passing lets him be. But like, if we're going, he should have gone way earlier than this. So I'm totally fine with this pick. I think this is a great pick.
All right.
I think with Igor is probably the most concerning thing with Igor. I mean, especially prior to March Madness, was just his competition against like actually good teams.
Yes.
Because people were putting him, and me included, were putting him in crazy categories because what he did in Europe was really good. And then coming into the league or coming into college, I was like, oh no, this is a cheat code. But I was saying this when he was playing against Idaho. I didn't even know Idaho had a team until this year. And this is not a diss, but I didn't know Idaho. I thought they're one of them states that's like, oh, they just don't have a team apparently. Like I thought, like I mean, other than Boise State, obviously, but like I think you're
gonna get a lot of hate mail from Idaho.
Yeah. So when against like good teams, I think the most concerning thing was just how like unreliable as a scorer he was, especially when Reggie Saunders was literally their go-to guy literally for most of the actual like conference play, because guy couldn't even really get to the rim because he is not explosive at all. Given yes, he is like 6'8" and whatnot, but even you see guards, you see jumbo guards like that in the league, like whether it's a Luka or whether it's a Cade Cunningham or even LaMelo Ball, able to get to the rim a hell of a lot better and just more fluid athletes. But I think the playmaking wise, he has the best court vision and passing in his draft, but I think that can only take you so far when the main thing that people were telling me, oh, he can pull up from three. He can be a potential on and off ball guy, from three. I didn't see any of that. I was just seeing bricks galore at BYU because it just wasn't consistent. And even just how he would like his form or like how he would like the form would go up. And sometimes it just didn't look good at all. So, and defensively, he's pretty much a non-factor. And like I said, with jumbo guards, that especially ones that aren't athletic, that's a big red flag for me. So I think it's the taller Josh Giddey comparisons is accurate, but I just think scoring wise, it's like really scary. I know like you're not gonna look for him to really score the ball that often with the people around him. I get it, but I just think that kind of lowers his ceiling a bit more. But I could be proven wrong, but I think that's one of the reasons why he'll probably more than likely fall outside the top 20.
Mark Tavares asks, does Utah consider starting Demon as a
Nope. Nope.
I think he might eventually get there, but not his rookie year. You want to put the ball in his hand as much as possible.
If I see a one-on-one matchup, like let's just say they play the Bucks, if I see a one-on-one matchup with him versus Giannis Antetokounmpo,
he's gonna die. Giannis would kill him.
That's not no.
Okay, Mike, hold on. So I was on Penn State Basketball Live a couple of nights ago, and we were discussing this. Right, Rob over there, he believes that at some point, Igor could get to that point if he gets, say, 20% more physical, 30% more physical, right? And his idea of that was Boris Diaw came in as a point guard. A very similar build, very similar issues, and he put on some weight, got a bit more physical, and he was able to play that role. Now, if he doesn't work out as a point guard, is there a woe where if he puts on some weight, he could transition to that forward spot? Not in his rookie year, but say 4 years down the line.
Yeah.
Well, he would have to. The thing about that is he just would have to change. Because, like I said, it just reminds me of, like, I guess, like the height jumbo guard thing of Cade so much. Because you just like, oh, Cade, even just with how he's built, that he could be a potential forward if things don't work out as a point guard or something, especially if the shooting were to be addressed and whatnot, right? But with him, he's not even on the same whatever as Cade. Because Cade, even coming in as a prospect, had a much better build coming in. And just was a better athlete, to where I don't see that with Igor. And even if he does put on some pounds or some muscle, I don't see the athleticism changing a whole lot. There's only so much you can do athleticism-wise. You just either you have it or you don't. It's more of like a natural thing. And even if he were to put on some pounds, if he can't shoot that rock, he's not playing the forward. And even if he were to put on some pounds, and even if he were to put on some pounds, if he can't shoot the rock, he wouldn't play the forward. So
yeah, I don't think he'd play the 4. I think he might play some 3, but I don't really see him as a 4.
No, he's going to be a 4 at the 3. Okay, well, moving on now. We spent our time on 21st selection, which is crazy. But Indiana, Jordan, you're up next. Who are you taking?
Atlanta, I thought. Don't I have Atlanta?
20 seconds.
No, you have Atlanta. Yeah, it's Atlanta.
Yeah, it's Atlanta.
Indiana's the pick after.
Is 23.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, right. Well,
So,
you have
I'm not
Indiana
gonna-
as well. Sorry.
Yeah.
You have Atlanta and Indiana back to back.
Oh, I do. Okay, I didn't know that. That's fine. I'm not going to waste anyone's time with this. We talked about him the last time Atlanta was up. It's Noah Pinda. Like this is time.
Jeez.
Yeah. I'm not going to waste anyone's time. That's what we need to draft here. Like it's just very simple. We went through all the pros for him last time, so I'm not going to waste anyone's time. We can move on to Indiana unless anyone else has any options or any comments. Okay. So now we're looking at Indiana, and this is where things get interesting. I have a friend of mine who is a huge Pacers fan, so I'm actually kind of scared to make this pick because he's going to complain about it either way. So you know what? Talking with him, knowing him, he's told me that this would be one of his targets, so I'll just make I'll make him happy. I think this is a Lynn McNeely team. I think he could have gone way earlier.
Yeah, man.
But I do the shooting concerns are there. With it was not as good as it should have been at UConn. I think some of that was he wasn't physically ready for everything UConn was making him do. So this is not you're picking him and expecting him to immediately contribute in Indiana. This is more of a future play.
Agreed.
Fair.
All right. Yeah. I like that. Okay. So up 24th is myself with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Another first round pick from that Paul George trade. They're still coming through, right? Which is crazy. But I am going to be. I went up a few names here, and I thought about. Oh man, I'm like it. Wait, my notes are just. Yeah, sorry. It's like reloaded my notes. Sorry, Drake Powell.
Good pick.
Mm-hmm.
Good pick.
Right, he's still on the board, which is kind of surprising, in my opinion. Probably the best pure defender.
The question down low is
Mark, to answer your question, no.
Yeah, no, they're drafting Drake Powell, but they're not offering him a contract. That's the play. Yeah,
I didn't see the question. So
He said, does OKC have enough roster spots for all their picks? Hell no.
no, not even close. Yeah, this is going to be traded. One of them's going to have to be traded.
Most likely. But if it's not, Drake Powell's the play. Just another great defender. If that's all he is, man, if he just comes in and locks someone up for 4 possessions of the game, like a specialty player, I'm happy with that. Right, if I'm OKC. So that's my pick.
He did an extremely
good job.
He
He was athletic, but he was so much more athletic than I thought at the comp. Like I knew he was athletic, but he went way more than I thought.
I knew he was, because with Drake, it's been an up and down thing. That's probably because I know Tar Heels or North Carolina fans have been frustrated the whole year, especially they probably just expected more out of the team, especially with Ian Jackson and Drake Powell, especially Drake Powell, more Powell, because it wasn't until like the later stages of the season that Ian Jackson started to show a lot of red flags, to where he's out of the draft, which I didn't see like halfway through the season. But with Drake Powell, it's just been an up and down thing. It's like, can he really have a consistent jump shot? Or can he really score consistently? It's just a lot of question marks. I think defensively, actually on both sides of the ball, I was more impressed with him for like the last quarter of the season. The game against Duke, I think, was really impressive. Just being able to score the ball and have some 3-level scoring potential, I think, and even just defensive potential and being as good as a perimeter defender. Like I remember him getting Cooper Flagg into foul trouble. Because Cooper Flagg is like, oh well, why didn't he play as much in the game? Yeah, because Drake Powell was doing a really good job on him, and he got him in foul trouble. And that's obviously he kind of got cooked by Cooper in the later games. But I mean obviously it's Cooper Flagg. So but in that game alone, I think I was really impressed by Drake Powell. I mean, just as an athlete and just as a overall defender. I think that's probably one of the better picks at this point. Just especially if we just because I picked Clifford experience wise and someone who's able to probably contribute more effectively off the bat. Maybe you want if you want a project player or more of a project player this rate, then Drake Powell's probably the highest upside player this rate. So.
Yeah.
And they can take flyers here, man. They don't have a need to hit really at this point in the draft. Another name I considered was Hunter Salas.
Yeah.
Hunter would be another. Hunter would be another. I love Hunter Salas. Hunter is one of my favorite prospects, just period. Because you know how you just kind of like take pride in like in certain prospects because you were high on them almost before damn near anybody. That's me and Hunter. Like I'll say like less than halfway through the season. Last season I was extremely high on Hunter Salas. Like I was like, bro, this guy could end up being in the lottery because he's clear 3-and-D potential. He's athletic. He can get your shots up from anywhere. You need him to be a scorer, even down in the clutch and whatnot. Like, and given it was a bit of a down year for him, I will say this year, at Wake Forest this season. But I think that was kind of a byproduct of the team just not being as good because just some guys they didn't really replace hand in hand like or 1-to-1 like Andrew Carr, and they didn't really replace Andrew Carr in my opinion. And I think just spacing overall, I think that just like really affected certain players, especially Hunter Salas. So I just think to where I think he had to hunt for shots a bit more. But I don't know. I really love Hunter Salas, but I think right now I do agree with the Drake Powell draft one.
I think the fact they didn't declare last year was a massive mistake, but we'll move on from that.
Yeah, agreed.
So next up with Orlando via Denver. Is this the Aaron Gordon trade? I believe so.
I think
yeah, right. Okay, Mike, you're up. Who are you taking?
You said what via Atlanta? I missed that first part. Sorry.
Via Denver.
It's Orlando via Denver.
Yeah.
So Orlando at this rate, I think. So, so I think, like I said, like I think they still want to address shooting. Is Jace Richardson still on the board?
Yes.
And who did we pick for the Magic? And with their previous pick?
I went Nolan Traore.
Damn. Ooh, I don't
And
know
they
if
already
they
have
pick.
guys there with Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Because now I have to. Okay, so initially I had I had a couple plays here, but like I initially had Jace going, but I don't know if I don't know. That's pretty tough. And Jeff, like I said, Jace is still on the board. If I'm not,
I'm going to say this now because I don't know if it'll come up again. What does Tahad Pettiford do worse than Jace? Like they're both this. I'm not sure that Jace is actually going to be that effective of a defender.
Pick and roll playmaking.
I think that is Tahad's strength there over Jace personally. Oh, really? That's interesting. Because I think that they're actually pretty close as shooters. And so to me, I would rather take the guy who's an actual point guard at that height over. So I actually have Tahad over Jace.
I don't see them. I don't know if they take guards back to back.
They have too many guards.
Is it that bad they take two different projects at guard? These are two late first round picks.
That's true.
So I did a bit of so I think maybe at this rate because like I said it will probably fall somewhere here. Probably go with Yxel Lindenberg. To be honest with you, I think
that's actually a good pick.
Yeah, and I think the 3-point volume isn't crazy, but I think what you've seen from him, I mean, shooting above 35% on about 2 attempts per game from 3 is really, really promising.
And that defense, he fits.
The defense fits. I think that's probably your best pick at this point. I think, like I said, he had a really good combine or like a really good pre-draft process as well, to where I feel like someone will really give him a chance to really come in the league and like succeed, or like to give him a pathway to really like having effective minutes. And also that position at OKC is also low key up for grabs because Now it's like, oh, who's going to be their long-term center? And there's a lot of question marks about, do you really believe in Wendell Carter Jr. as your long-term center? Then there's a lot of question marks about Goga Bitadze, actually more than ever, to be honest with you. So there's a potential that if there's a position that's up for grabs, I feel like someone like Yaxel Lindbergh could really succeed into where we could be talking about him maybe possibly break into like a real like rotation or maybe starting player a couple years down the line at that position. So, and like I said, it opens up the floor because like I said, he can space the floor. So now it just makes things a lot easier for like Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. And hey, if they actually do draft Nolan, then more than likely they'll draft someone a big, I feel like, who could shoot here. Because like I said, they're not picking like guards back to back. More than likely, they're just not. Anthony Black is still here, and so is Jalen Suggs. So yeah.
Let's say they really want to guard, right? And they're willing to just give up 2 first-round picks and just hope one of them hits, right? They double up here. Mark Tavares asks, is Walter Clayton Jr. in play here?
Like I said, they don't pick guards back. They don't pick guards back to back.
If they do, sorry. Or is he a target for Orlando? Let's say Orlando doesn't take Nolan Tribe, they take a wing or a big with their first selection. Is he?
I think at this rate, I'll say at that rate, I'll say yeah, because I think it's just certain times where like I think it was the final or semifinal where. I mean, this guy was so cold, and it's like, he's not gonna do anything. He's not gonna, and then bam, he just goes off in the second half, or it was like later stages of the second half. So you got someone with crazy intangibles. He's extremely confident. Like he's an extremely confident scorer, and I think at this rate, if certain people aren't off the board, or if certain people are off the board, I think it would make sense. Me personally, I have him going a bit later. There's a certain team I have in mind for Walter Clayton, which isn't the Magic, but I'll probably save that for later.
Dallas trade him. Sorry. Sorry. What?
All right. We'll move on now to the next selection, which is Brooklyn Nets. That's you, Kyle.
Actually, this one was also kind of difficult to me because there's a lot of ways they could have gone about it. Mm-hmm. But to me, I actually went Hanson Yang here.
Really?
Yeah. IQ, his ability. I watched some of, I did some tape on him, and then I'm watching during the combine. Just his IQ, his intangibles, the way he plays around the rim. And I think he plays at his own pace, which is what you want from a player. You don't want to be rushed. And I think that fits what Brooklyn is looking for. So I would say Hanson Yang here. I didn't really have a comp for him. I think he's a unique player because of what he brings skill set wise.
Softer Vlade Divac.
Yeah, just a different kind of guy. And I think because of who they have as coach, who really appreciates high IQ, I think that's why you pick Hanson here. So
my only problem with that is they went Queen early, and I don't think
right. But
Queen
I think you're picking Yang for backup minutes. You're not picking.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
You're picking Yang as right. You
and then the funny thing about that is out of the three. If you're just looking at who has the best passing or best like playmaking out of the three, it's Hanson Yang.
Did you guys see that policy of the scrimmage, that little bounce pass?
Yeah. So to anyone who isn't familiar with Hanson Yang, he's a young player out of China and whatnot. He actually played, I believe, in the preseason of the preseason NBA, if I'm not mistaken, last season, and he's played in like certain youth competitions with China. If you've seen,
he did summer league last year too.
Yeah. It was the summer league. Yeah, summer league preseason. Yeah, that type of stuff. And I think they made it to. He played for the Qingdao Eagles, if I'm not mistaken, in China. I believe they made it to the finals, if I'm not mistaken. He had a pretty solid season. So I think what he provides. I think the biggest question mark with him is, can he really make that next step to the next level and handle the physicality? That's probably because that's something that was really glaring for me during the scrimmages.
And at the combine, it looked like he could. Like, he impressed at the combine. I think he probably, to me,
Because I think that's where IQ really steps in, because the physicality, or I don't think he's not the strongest player, but this guy's footwork in the paint, like he can really just get to his spots and like really just Like
I think somebody finally taught him how to say "give me the ball" in the second game.
It was
In English,
literally.
I don't think he knew how to say that. But
Yeah, quite literally. This guy he's going. I mean, because I wasn't really considering it, but I think he did good enough in the combine to where I wouldn't be mad if someone were to pick him up as a like young backup big, in the late first round. So.
If there's anything I'm willing to bet on at this point in the drafts, it's a genetically modified Chinese person.
Genetically modified who?
Chinese prospect. We already know that they. Do you know what they do in China? I'm not going to get into that. I'm sorry. That's going to get me in trouble. We'll move on here.
So it's me with the other Brooklyn pick. And so since we're stuck on the same team, we've already gotten 2 bigs and a wing. So I'm leaning more towards guard. And this is where, to me, it's between Pettiford or Clayton Jr.
Okay.
If we're going with the playmaking out of the bigs, I could see Clayton Jr. But I just think, to me, you've got the shooting from Cam and both Cams, from both Cams. You've got Queen, you've got Yang, you've got Claxton. I think I want the playmaking, so I think I'm going Pettiford here. That's where I'm going.
I went Miles Bird here, actually.
Ooh, like I don't hate that.
I was about to bring him up like 2 weeks down the line. Very high Miles Bird.
I think he is another one who impressed at the combine. Just decision making, pace, the way he sees the floor, his defense, the way he plays the passing lanes. I like that a lot. And then he, obviously I think he needs to put on a little bit of strength or muscle. But 6'7", I mean, and his shooting is one of the things that is also probably the most underrated things about him. A lot of his decision making was what was talked about most, but I think Miles Bird would be interesting just because of what the Nets like as far as having guys who are like in between. You got guys who could play the 2, play the 3. I think Miles Bird will be interesting here too, but I like the Walter Clayton pick simply because of the shooting. You have another guard, and then Tahad also just off of what we looked at playmaking wise over the last week. You can't go wrong here. I think the Nets are in probably the best position, minus the Mavs getting Cooper Flag. Just the ability to pick, have 4 picks, have four chances to develop really good players that help them kind of build what they want as far as roster construction. So you can't go wrong here at 27. It's towards the end of the first round. So to me, if it's Walter, if it's Tahad, if it's Miles, you have options that just really work well.
Phylon was another one I looked at. I think, I also Hunter Salas was another one, Jace even, but so yeah, there's a lot of good options here.
All right, moving on now to the 28th overall selection. So we have 3 more picks left today, right? Kyle, you're with Boston. Who's your pick?
I have Boston?
Yes.
I did not know I had Boston.
That
one wasn't on the list. It wasn't on.
This is my bad, guys. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I think I've miscounted the things as I'm going through. And
This is our first dry run. So we'll get better as this goes on.
All right, so Boston picks interesting guys. We need
to pick. We need this pick right. I don't know why our franchise is going next season. We need to get this pick right.
Well, if I had to pick, mainly because this is rough because there was a lot of ways you could go about this. Point guard wise, they probably need. I mean, they do have Peyton Pritchard. I don't know what's going to happen with the Drew Holiday thing, so there's that.
They're probably going to need a wing when they trade Jaylen Brown for Cooper Flag.
If they're going to go wing, then I'm okay saying Miles Bird to the Celtics. I'm also okay with Alex Tuhey at 28.
Alex Tuhey is a great pick.
And to me, I think the shooting,
but then the shooting is also kind of a bit of a question mark, though.
Right. I just to be honest with you, to be a
Do you think they go a big with Horford maybe retiring?
I think they do, but like
but they have the 28th pick and their 32nd pick. So if they're gonna go big, it would probably be in the second round.
Can I offer a bit of guidance here? Right. With Horford most likely retiring, my pick here would be Ryan Caliprin. Right.
Agreed.
You get some great rim protection, one of the best shot blockers in college basketball, pretty good mobility, not the fastest, but he moves well laterally, right? Good touch around the rim, and from the mid-range, has some floor spacing upside, good understanding of the game, makes good reads off the short roll, and is a pretty good passer around the post. He kind of fits the bill with everything that Joe Mazzulla wants from a big, and that we've kind of seen. It's like a mismatch of Kristaps and Al Horford, like a kind of a mix, and then a lighter version of that. That makes sense. So he plays that role quite well, I think, and he can step into that.
I like the idea, but I actually like the guy from Switzerland, Nedenhauser, Yannick Koning from Penn. I like him. I like him better than Kalkbrenner for that same role. Because I think he's like Kalkbrenner, but he's a much better athlete.
So the reason why is they're not gonna look for strict. I think they're as long as Mazzulla or it's okay. I'm a Celtics fan. I won't say too much because if I do, we're gonna be here for 30 more minutes than we're supposed to be. All right. So for me, I don't want the whole chuck up three and pray. I don't like that because that's literally what we're doing in the playoffs. We would just chuck up threes and literally pray every time. But I think they just take someone who can shoot. And
well, if that's the case, then Renaud makes sense.
Shoot, and also we need defensive. Like it's both. It goes with someone who can shoot, and also because we don't just need someone who just does one but not the other. For me, I'm really tired of that and just picking one-dimensional guys, or guys who only really show one way, and it's like could show two-way but doesn't really. Because I think that's one of the reasons why the Celtics are in a position where they are. Because I think we haven't like really taken our like late first round picks seriously to where we just pick anyone. We don't put a whole lot of thought into it, and then it doesn't turn out right. And then you see a team like OKC, like Aaron Wiggins was like the 50-something pick of that draft, and see where he is right now. So if you really do your scouting well, I think that when you have these late first round picks, that's when you make the most of it. And you even see other teams like Indiana or even like San Antonio, like when you make those picks and you actually do a bit of scouting and you make the most of it, I think that's it reaps a lot of rewards. And I just think that's where the Celtics have to get it right this time, unless they're really talking about like trading the pick for something that would really benefit them. But if not, I think Kalkbrenner is 100% the best player. So
Jaylen Brown and 28 good play.
Jim, all right, bro.
Okay, all right. We have two questions, two comments to get to. Right, first of all from Mark Tavares. By the way, Mark, thank you for staying for the entire stream. I really appreciate your support. You've been really engaged.
Oh
and active.
My God!
But
I have a higher vertical than Janai.
No, we're not gonna. No, we know.
I am a 15-year-old Caucasian male who hasn't played any high caliber of sports in about 3 years. Right, I actually haven't played organized sports in about 3 years. Right. I have a higher vertical by about 5 inches.
So I don't know what happened I don't know if he was feeling something in his like legs or something. I'm not sure what happened, but
he gets more shots than that. Like he blocks more shots than
So I think I trust Broom a lot more with that. But I think for people in the combine, now that's probably the thing I was the most confused about was him not playing scrimmages. I don't think that did. I don't think that was good for him. When I heard he wasn't playing scrimmages, I'm like, you didn't have. And I'm not saying it was Broom's decision because every player has a team around them. Yeah. You have your coaches around you. You have front office staff from NBA teams, whatever, and then you have like your family around you. And usually you have basketball. Nowadays, you got basketball people in your fam. Like it's very, very rare for you not to have those type of people in your circle. So there's going to be those type of people advising you what to do, what not to do. So for him not playing those scrimmages, I feel like that wasn't good for him because I just feel like if there was any time for people to not question that you were up there with Cooper Flag, I guess, with like on polls and everything about being player of the year, if you want to just put any doubt put a stop to any doubt on that, I feel like you should have at the very minimum played one scrimmage game. Like you'll see Maxime only played one, and he was crazy in that game. Shot well. It was like what? I don't know. I can't remember the percentage, but it was really high. He had scored like 20 points. It was like 20, and then he got like 9 rebounds and 2 assists or something. Just he played, and he didn't play the second game. So it's just like I don't know. I think that probably hurt his stock a little bit, because that may be like a competitive question mark with some teams, to be honest with you. So I don't know.
All right, now I have another question from Y. Is Alex Condon a potential target for the 76ers?
Seems a little early for him.
Yeah, for me, I had him because I released a 2026 board, like a way too early version. I had him going back to school, because I still think there are a couple of things that he could probably polish in this game a bit more. I think he has a lot of potential, but I don't necessarily know if he's NBA ready yet. That's just my opinion. With Alex Condon, to be honest with you, because it's like if Tommy Ho, or if I'm pronouncing Tommy Howe or Tommy O, I think it's probably Howe, or Thomas Howe from Florida. I think it was probably a good thing he returned to school. I think Alex Condon probably should follow suit. I don't know if he maintained his eligibility or not, but I don't know.
He has,
I think
he
it's
has
a little
first round
early.
interest.
Did he?
He has first round interest, yeah.
Okay.
That seems early for me.
Like-
I like him, but I don't like him that much.
The highest I've seen and I've heard interest from is 21.
That's fair. If it
I
turns
I mean,
out
yeah,
well,
like
that's fair.
it's not like insanely high. It's just like that's a little higher than
Yeah, that's
what
what
I'm
I'm
comfortable with.
Yeah.
So, who are you going with, Kyle?
Who was the selection there? Who was the selection?
You said
Kyle.
Kalkbrenner, right?
I went Tui.
Oh yeah, you said
Tui?
Tui.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I
I
see.
was way down for Tui.
Shooting.
All right,
Just
now, 29th pick. Phoenix. This is myself. So, personally, I'm going Calbrenner here. I'm very high on Calbrenner. I think he's a great fit. The other options were Miles Bird. I love his feel for the game, his movement, his cutting. I'm really high on Miles Bird. Ben Henshaw is another option. Another guy with great feel for the game, secondary playmaking upside, can handle the ball, great energy, fights well over screens, high energy, high impact, does everything right off the ball, has all the intangibles. I'm very high on Ben Henshaw. I think he should be getting more first round buzz. And if it was a better fit here at 29, I'd be taking him. But I'm taking Ryan Calbrenner because he is just the best fit for Phoenix. And I've been saying this since like January. I'm very high on Calbrenner in the Suns.
I agree with that. I think I agree.
I mean, I don't hate it.
That's it.
I don't hate it either.
That's not little then.
Like I have other bigs higher, but I also like he's in that area. Like so, it's
Yeah, man, for sure. All right, well, final pick of the day, Mike. You have the Clippers from OKC.
So that's got. Is Walter Clayton still on the board or no?
Yes.
No,
Yeah,
he went at 27.
No, that's right.
Wasn't it Todd?
No,
That 27?
Todd went 27.
You went to Hod. Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
so-
Walter Clayton Jr. That's why. That's why I said there's a certain team I'm waiting for that I said was probably the better fit for the better fit for Walter Clayton. Just to micro, even if it's because more than likely he's obviously just not going to start. But like even just that microwave scoring off the bench, I don't think you really get that from anyone in this draft at this point, other than Walter Clayton. I think he's just shown like he's not afraid of the big moment. He can score from damn near anywhere. Yeah, you probably have a bit of physicality questions and whatnot, and defensively he doesn't really offer a whole lot on that point. And it will probably be a bit of a weakness coming into this year. Unless he, I see something significantly different, but I'll probably say Walter Clayton Jr. is probably the best pick for them at this point.
Can you dive into the fit there?
What did you say?
Can you dive a bit into the fit there? Like how he fits with the team, what his role would be?
Yeah, the microwave. It's particularly for microwave scoring from any guard.
So like the paint pushing role.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although he doesn't
And they
have.
don't have they don't have someone who does that on their
Yeah,
team.
they don't have someone who does that, so it would literally to fill in that role. Although the Peyton Pritchard, they're two completely different as prospects. Peyton Pritchard is a much better. Was even coming in was still a better prospect than Walter Clayton Jr.
I think he's a better prospect. I think it's the best comp, the most realistic comp in terms of style.
I'll say to a degree, but Peyton Pritchard just had much more deep of a bag, especially his range from 3. I'm not saying Clayton doesn't have range or whatnot, but like I didn't see it wasn't nearly as on a consistent basis.
The Celtics have an entire drill, by the way, one of the best defenses ever formed, have an entire drill called Stop Peyton. Whereas one on 4 or 1 on 5, Peyton taking on the rest of the team and trying to score. And apparently they aren't very successful in stopping him. So yeah, I think Peyton Pritchard is probably one of the best macro scorers in the NBA. So it's probably a bit unfair to compare them. But in terms of pure style, I do see it. And in that role, I could see him succeeding as well. Maybe not to the same level.
Before we get into questions, can I just there have been some people who don't like the depth of this class. I just want to point out, I still have 8 guys with first round ranks on
so much more depth than people said.
So I mean, Will Riley didn't go. Will Riley,
I forgot.
Maxime Renaud, Thiero, Jace Richardson, Hunter Salas, Miles Bird, Liberian Phylon, and then kind of Ninhauser. I mean,
Ben Saraf.
That's insane. Ben Saraf didn't go. Cam Jones didn't go. We talked about him multiple times.
No, Cam Jones did go.
No.
I just mentioned Cam at 20 instead of Cass.
Mackenzie Mako, Hugo Gonzalez. I mean, we got
Tasmania still on the board.
Kobe Bray is still on the board.
Proctor Markovic is still on the board. Yannick Conan's still on the board. Kobe Bray is still on the board.
I mean, this is a good class. This is a very good class.
Otega Away is also another interesting. I think Otega Away is also still.
Milos Uzan still on the board out of Houston.
It's crazy. This is a good class. This is a very deep class.
Darian Williams. I know some people.
I think he has to go back to school. That's how deep this class is.
Zakowski didn't go.
Mm-hmm.
Olbrich didn't go. Eric Dixon didn't go. Sion James is still here. Like Mark Sears is still. There's still a lot of Ryan Nemhard. There's a lot of actual legitimate contributing guys here.
Yeah.
Of the guys I named, you can't tell me at least 5 of those guys won't be legitimate contributors.
It won't work out. Like this is a good class. This is a deep class, and people keep saying it was Cooper or bust, or Cooper. No, they're a real deep people in this.
Not if you're actually scouting. If you're actually doing the work, some of the work that a lot of us are doing, us and some others that do this all year long, like from October of the year before. And summer
I had a top 200 out, I think, in February of last year.
Yeah, no, we were early on this stuff.
Right, you're not saying that this class was shallow. Like, you definitely knew there was depth here, that you were going to get a lot of talent. To me, this draft is even more talented than the previous one.
Significantly.
And I think, funny enough, I feel like next year's draft trends up even higher.
Next year's draft, I want to tell this now. Even though Tyron Stokes isn't going to be in that class, which I was like, whoa. Next year's class might be the best class in terms of pure talent. I don't know how they're going to end up at the NBA level.
It's hard to not come up with Hall of Famers for comps for some of them.
Yeah, so in terms of pure preseason, the level they're at, this might be the best class we'll ever get to cover.
Agreed.
Maybe.
It remains to be seen, obviously, because I need to see it transition into the. But I mean, honestly, there's almost no doubts for me. I mean, there's literally an Anthony Edwards clone out of West Africa, going to Baylor next season, and I don't like using players or like using superstar comps for a lot of people, but honestly, just seeing how he plays, there's no other player, barely any other player that you can compare him to. Other than there's a Nickeil Alexander-Walker / De'Aaron Fox combo guard, or like caliber, I guess, like player type combo guard also next year, and he probably.
Who are you saying is the Anthony Edwards clone? Because
Tunde Yusufu.
Oh, interesting. You're
what? Okay. Yeah, he's literally an ant clone.
I mean,
literally.
I can see that. I can see that now. I can see that now. Because I had Ant as my Darren Peterson
swag,
comp,
you
so then I was
swag.
like, the West Africa thing threw me off. So yeah,
No, the
that makes sense.
physical. I think the physical. I think the frame and physical build is quite different from Derek Peterson to
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards. That's why I said specifically Tunde Yusufu, because it's not even just a build. It's just like literally how they play. Like I don't even know. I don't even know how Ant has a clone. Ant hasn't even been in the league that long, so I'm not even sure how he has a clone yet. So
Okay, well, look, we have an entire year to cover the 2026 class.
Right.
We have 2 more questions to get to before we wrap up. First one from Mark Tavares, still here. Thank you, Mark. Do you anticipate a lot of trades on the night of the drafts?
Yes.
can I answer this one?
Yes.
I'm gonna, maybe this is counterproductive and not to the point, but I don't think there will be. I think there'll be a lot of trades before the draft. A lot of this will be sorted out before the draft, but the order we have now will be significantly different to the order we have on draft day. That's what I will say. And especially, there's a very good chance at 2 and 3 that those picks aren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance that number 1 doesn't say the same, right? And I could see Washington, Utah, and New Orleans, less so New Orleans, but Washington, Utah potentially consolidating these picks they have and try to get a bigger hold, right?
I would caution you. Every
that.
intel I have says that the Mavs are keeping Cooper.
I'm
so
trolling you, man.
So
you weren't here, I wouldn't be saying any of this. All that Jalen Brown BS. No.
Nick, you mind for answer that question?
Yeah, man, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess part of that, the biggest pick or the pick why I said I'm picking Colin Murray, but I think it's going to be traded, was the Houston Rockets pick, because it's like I said they were specifically going for someone where you can possibly get like star talent out of which you're just not going to get with the pick that they have. So that's why they kind of lucked out a little bit. And I said like
also like OKC and Brooklyn won't be able to roster everyone they draft.
Yeah, that as well. I think
So,
OKC will probably trade.
They're gonna have to do.
They'll
trades.
probably trade. I think they'll probably trade their pick for like either a future pick, or they'll like tie it to like another like role player or another shooter or something that they think they need. Which honestly, they're going to the conference finals against the Timberwolves. If they win,
they are the favorites. They're the favorites for the title right now.
They are, but I mean, they are the favorites. But as we've seen, anything can happen.
I agree, but I'm just saying they're the favorites, and they have this many first round picks.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I said they have a lot of room.
To answer your question, Mark, there's potentially six of the top 10 picks are in question to be traded, legitimately.
Yeah, and then a lot of the later first round is. I mean, Orlando's got 2 picks. You know, I can just see there's going to be movement. There's going to be a lot of movement.
All right. Next question is from Y again. Would you take Cedric Coward over Nate Clifford? Personally, I would absolutely. They're close in their range, but Cedric Coward just feels like a more of a sure thing.
I want to see Coward's medicals if I'm a team, but I'd bring in both.
I feel like Cedric Coward has actually proven he contributes to winning a lot better in terms of. You can't weigh in too much the advanced stats, but all the advanced numbers tell you that Cedric Coward is a winner.
Yeah,
I've just seen.
But it's very close. You're bringing in both. I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think I've just seen so much from Clifford, not even just this season, but also like last season, especially. For Colorado State, I've just seen him really just pull up in big moments, and he's not afraid of the big moments. And I remember going into. He was damn near the sole reason why Colorado State coming in as a 12th seed had higher odds to win against like the 5 seed or whoever they faced in the first round. Like there's a reason why like he has such a like good.
I thought Neek would have been a first round pick last year, and he got better.
Yeah, so, and he got better, which is not something you can say for a lot of people. So I just think Nick Clifford is just a surefire like bet. You know where you're gonna get from him. Right. Coward, I think you also know where you're gonna get from him, but I just think Clifford just offers so much more offensively. And like I said, I just think he does some of the smaller things and he does some of the bigger things. So I just think for me personally, I think you just go with I personally would go with Clifford, but I can see why people are saying it's close. So
all right. Well, I think we've gone through everything. We've answered all the questions. I think now's a good time to wrap up. We will potentially do another one of these before the draft, a full 2-round mock. we're gonna have to probably get through the picks a bit faster in that one. But
Yeah.
it's been a good nearly 3 hours. I've had a lot of fun. I'm sure Jordan, Kyle, Mike, I'm sure you guys had a lot of fun too. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to tune in next time. We got a lot more content coming out on the site over at draftstack.substack.com. So make sure to check that out. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube. We have daily videos coming out, interviews coming out. I just interviewed Steve Settle III, who's a projected second round pick. I just interviewed Dash Daniels, who's a projected top 10 pick in next year's drafts. So you can check those out at our YouTube if you're not watching there already. So make sure you subscribe. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.